Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Gameweek 21, and it has been a while. We're not going to get too many of these breaks throughout the season, but we have covered everything you need to know for Gameweek 21 and beyond throughout all the videos across the week, and now this is the deadline stream to culminate things and answer some last-minute dilemmas in terms of benching headaches, the captaincy, which is very close this week between Isak, who is currently yellow flagged, Palmer and Salah. So let's get straight into your questions and queries. I haven't made a single transfer yet. I did discuss my transfer plans in that podcast last week and also my team selection video yesterday, but I haven't made any moves thus far, and it could be a case of rolling in Gameweek 21 for me and using free transfers instead of taking hits, which I proposed throughout some of those podcasts. So let's get straight into your comments. As always, drop a like if you enjoy the content and subscribe to the channel. Just my opinion says waiting on Isak and Joao Pedro updates. I do have some in regards to both players, but the likes of Eddie Howe and Hurstler can't really be trusted in press conferences. Jaron says start to Solanke, Wood, Gakpo. I already have Salah. I can also put Gibbs in for one of them or swap him in for Timber. Thoughts? I'd bench Solanke and start Chris Wood and Gakpo. Hi Dylan, who to captain, Gordon, Palmer or Salah? From those three, it would be Salah. Also bench Semenyo or Castagna. I'd bench Castagna there. And just kind of one difference from my team selection, actually. I currently have the armband on Salah, and as I mentioned throughout the week, it is a 50-50 call between him and Isak for me. Palmer's kind of an outsider pick, and he's also in the equation, but I think Salah and Isak are the front runners for the captaincy, and I've currently got it on Mohamed Salah. Cylindra says, hey Dylan, got 2 free transfers, and my current attack is Jesus, Isak, Joao Pedro, all flagged on my bench. I've got Rodgers and Kirkes, so should I sell Jesus to Wood, Mateta, Jimenez, Gakpo? For me, the best option long-term is Chris Wood, but beyond the Southampton fixture next week, I don't think the games are that appealing for Nottingham Forest, so you could definitely argue that Mateta or Gakpo will be the better investments because Liverpool have that double in Gameweek 24, while Jean-Philippe Mateta has excellent fixtures and Crystal Palace are top over the next 4 game weeks in the FDR. In my case, I think I'd probably go for Gakpo at this moment in time because of that double in Game Week 24. Otherwise, I'd probably just keep it simple, and Chris Wood for me is the best long-term option. Or just roll my transfer. Think I need to buy a striker, and should I start Joao Pedro or Rodgers? Well, with Joao Pedro, I think with Hurstler's comments, it does kind of suggest he's not going to start the game. I think he'll be in the squad, but I'm not that convinced he starts. If it wasn't for that, I'd maybe lean towards Joao Pedro, but in this case, I'd go for Morgan Rodgers, I think, despite Everton having potentially a managerial bounce against Aston Villa. But yeah, look, you've got a decent squad, but in my opinion, it's probably best to make a forward transfer. Gabriel Jesus is out for the rest of the season. Callum Jr. doing very well in FPL this season, currently on Palmer captain, however, it's very close between him, Salah and Isak. Also undecided on whether to start Rodgers over Joao Pedro. Yeah, I understand that. I'd probably lean towards Rodgers. I don't think Joao Pedro will start this week. As for your captaincy dilemma, a lot of us have that same conundrum. I've currently got Salah, but throughout most of the week, I was leaning towards Isak. It does seem like amongst engaged managers, from what I've seen, Isak might be the more template pick, but that's not necessarily always the best option. James123 says, hello Dylan, is it worth going for a -4 from Robinson to Munoz? No, is the simple answer to that. Richard Millichip says, hey Dylan, please help. Let me just get your question up again. Best Jesus replacement up to 8.8 million. Already have Isak and Cunha. Also, is it worth Jesus out for a -4 this game week or play Rodgers and do the Jesus transfer for free next week? The latter is the best case for you. I'd rather do it for free and just keep Jesus on your bench for one more week. Start Rodgers, that's absolutely fine. In terms of the best replacements for him, it's probably between Gakpo and Mateta. It all depends on price tags though. Since you've already got Isak and Cunha, you could afford to go for a cheaper option like Chris Wood, Joao Pedro when he's fit, or perhaps Raul Jimenez. So you've got a lot of options, but no particular standouts, I'd say. I think if you were to do it next week though, you'd probably go for Chris Wood against Southampton and maybe then swap into Gakpo ahead of Game Week 23 when Liverpool face Ipswich Town at home. Then they have the double, but there's a lot of chopping and changing. I do recognise that, but yeah, I'd probably stick with one of Chris Wood or Cody Gakpo, and if you buy one in next week, I think Chris Wood would be the favourite. Do you believe Forest can do the double, says Batman? No, is the simple answer to that as well. The Goat says, hey Dylan, who should I get, Bruno or Gordon? Still Gordon for me. Newcastle are a much better team than Man United, and Fernandes can do well against any opponent, and he's got a great record against Southampton, Brighton and Fulham, his next 3 opponents. I'd just rather go for Gordon though. Cyril says, hey Dylan, bench one of Joao Pedro, Rodgers and Sarr. At the moment it has to be Joao Pedro because I personally don't think he starts. Now, I could be wrong about that, and if he does, he's not a bad option against Ipswich Town, but I'd bench Joao Pedro personally. Taylor Rudkin says, thoughts on Sarr and Jackson to Bruno Fernandes and Joao Pedro or Raul for -4. I wouldn't be buying Joao Pedro this week, especially for a hit, and I do think Jackson is worth keeping if possible for those West Ham and Wolves fixtures if he can, but I do recognise a lot of us will sell him before that even comes to pass. I'd probably stick with what you have, to be honest. Yusuf says, will Fabianski start? If I had to guess, it would be yes, but I would not be surprised if Areola gets the nod over Fabianski. It's very difficult to tell when a new manager comes in Graham Potter. I don't think you can judge too much from the FA Cup lineup against Aston Villa. I have Henderson and Fabianski. Should I replace one? No. I definitely wouldn't, and I'd start Henderson in your case anyway. I know Leicester can score goals, and they scored 6 actually in the FA Cup only a few days ago, but yeah, I'd go for Dean Henderson in goal this week. Trennick says, yo Dylan, can you bench 2 from these? Chris Wood, Robinson, Gabriel, Joao Pedro and Rodgers, and I'm starting Raya. Yeah, interesting one. Reluctantly, I'd say bench Joao Pedro, and that's my personal opinion because I don't think he starts. The other one is between Robinson or Chris Wood for me, I'd argue. I would probably go for Robinson on the bench for now. I think West Ham score, and then you're relying on an assist from Robinson, which he can do. He's got 7 this season, but I'd be a bit careful about that one. Start Colwell and roll, or sell to Munoz. If you can sell him to Munoz for free, I'd probably do it, but rolling isn't a bad option in your case. I don't think it's clear-cut. I just take the punt on Daniel Munoz, though. Good evening as well, Lager. Good to see you. Yeah, Raul or Joao Pedro. If I'm buying one this week, it's Raul Jimenez. Bilal says, hi Dylan, Foden and Sarr to Bruno and Gordon for free. What do you think? I'm more open to this sort of move. Foden is arguably a hold for the next 2 gimmicks at least, and Ismaila Sarr for the next 3, but Bruno and Gordon are upgrades, and I think that just makes your team better. So in this case, I would make the transfers. Bat Orgil, or Orgil, says, who to bench? Gabriel, Munoz, Castagna. I'd start Gabriel and Munoz. Are we still bullish on Salah? Yes, I'm still quite bullish on him, just not as much as I would be in most weeks, and that's credit to Nottingham Forest. They're a decent side this season. But yeah, you also have good alternatives in Palmer and Isak, which makes it a big debate. I don't think it's clear-cut either way. Terry says, should I transfer out Watkins for Mateta if I already have Sarr? If I shouldn't next game week, who should I get for Watkins? I have Rodgers, Wood and Isak, by the way. I'd keep Ollie Watkins for now, but I understand why you're saying that. There is a chance he doesn't start against Everton, and when you consider Aston Villa's upcoming fixtures, maybe Watkins starts against Arsenal, and he's safe for the Champions League game, which is crucial. If Aston Villa win that, they've pretty much secured qualification to the round of 16, and they avoid the playoffs, which is very crucial. Yeah, there is a chance Watkins doesn't start. Duran is back. I'd probably take the plunge here and probably sell Ollie Watkins, to be fair. You've got Chris Wood already, that's fine. You've got him in place for Southampton next week. He is benchable against Liverpool, though. I would be tempted by one of Gakpo, Mateta, or Raul Jimenez this week. If I had to pick one now, it's probably Gakpo because of Liverpool's double in Gameweek 24, but we're talking about very fine margins here. Orksan says, hi Dylan, choose 3 from Wood, Wissa, Cunha, Isak. A lot of choosing 2 or 3 questions, and a lot of them involving Chris Wood, which is understandable. I would definitely start Isak. He shouldn't be in this debate, even with the yellow flag. Cunha, in most weeks, I'd say he's pretty much a start, but I understand why he's in this conundrum. At the moment, I'd probably bench Chris Wood, if I'm being honest. It's between him and Cunha to bench. Slight preference for Cunha this week. Sahil says, 8 Nuri to Hall, Jackson to Raul, Smith Rowe to Hall, 3 transfers. Yeah, I'm not sure what the last transfer is, because he did say Hall twice, but yeah, good transfers overall. There are some players you're selling that are pretty decent, though, like Jackson, who can still come good, so be aware of that. You probably address it in the next question or comment. Start Wood or Mbumo? Mbumo. I covered this very briefly in my team selection video and the transfer plans, and for me, Mbumo is a start in most scenarios. I think Man City is still a good fixture for attackers. Sahil says, should I also do Cunha to Isak if he's starting? Yes. I do like Cunha still, but Isak has better fixtures. He's in incredible form right now, and I wouldn't say he's essential, but he's very close to that bracket. He's the third best asset in the game behind Salah and Palmer. Is Jackson a sell and who to buy for him? I don't think Jackson is necessarily a sell. I did cover this in my Trans Tips podcast a couple of days ago. I think what Jackson could be is a cash cow. Very easy to downgrade him to Gakpo, Raul Jimenez, Mateta. Go for a lower owned player in the process, save some money, and you also can invest in other areas and buy Gordon or Bruno, to name one example. So I don't think Jackson is necessarily a sell, but Chelsea need to get their act together quick. I do think Jackson will do well against Wolves and West Ham, at least in one of those fixtures, but yeah, he needs to get some goals in very soon, otherwise he would become a sell very easily. Yeah, I think Dean Henderson starts. Dogbead Wins says, is it good to buy Jimenez to replace Jesus? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Jimenez, but for his price, you can't really complain. And yeah, unfortunately with Gabriel Jesus, he's out for the rest of the season, probably out for 7, 8, 9 months with an ACL injury. Hopefully he recovers soon, but I was never keen on that pick in the first place. You know, beyond the injury record, which speaks for itself, he can be very unreliable, unfortunately. So he'll say Joao Pedro to Wood, or sell one of Aina, Gabriel, Gvardiol, and go to Robinson. Good question. I wouldn't be selling Aina when he's got Southampton next week, and Forest are relatively fixture-proof, I'd say. Gabriel is still, for me, one of the best defenders in the game, maybe even number one. And Gvardiol is the most sellable of the lot, so that could work. Gvardiol to Robinson, save some money, and then upgrade elsewhere. I wouldn't be selling Joao Pedro to Wood this week. Maybe next week, when Chris Wood faces Southampton, but I'm not that keen on the New Zealand striker against Liverpool. Do you think Joao Pedro can be benched, or will he directly play or be left out? Good question. I personally think Joao Pedro will be on the bench. I don't think he starts. I'll cover this now, actually. I want to give the reasons why. Basically, once I read out Hurstler's comments, I'll pretty much explain why I think that. But before I do, let's go to some different screens, starting off with the FDR. It has been a while since we've shown you these different graphics and screens. Fulham are top until Gameweek 26, but I have a feeling the potential double in Gameweek 25 with them and Spurs has definitely played a part in proceedings. Otherwise, you would expect Everton and Liverpool, the two Merseyside clubs, to be top of the fixture difficulty rating. Arsenal remain in the top 5 despite having no doubles for the time being. Newcastle United are also right up there. Wolves, Man City, West Ham, Forest, and Brentford are in the bottom 5 of the FDR. As for predicted points, Palmer is top, and a lot of these different websites, whether it be Drafthound, Fantasy Football Hub, they do have Palmer as the best captain in Gameweek 21. Salah is second. Then we've got Haaland, Bruno Fernandes, Isak in the top 5, and I do think the Swedish international is probably lower down because of that yellow flag. Cunha, Gordon, Havertz, Eze, and Mateta complete the top 10. And as for price changes, there could be a lot, but I think it's probably best to check this out in a couple of hours' time. That's when things become more clear-cut and definitive. I don't think there'll be that many price rises and falls, but at the moment they have projected Bruno Fernandes, Raul Jimenez, Wood, Hall, Mateta, Gordon, Aina, Eze, Sells, Dubravka, amongst several others. No, okay, that's about it. I thought there's more. But in terms of price falls, there are plenty. Nicholas Jackson, Diaz, Jesus, Madison, Joe Gomez, Joao Gomez, Emerson, Pedro Porro. Is that Heaton? Yeah, Heaton, Luongo, Pau Torres, Fraser, Madueke, Target, Senesi, Werner, Johnston, O'Brien, Fafana, Ward, and Kulusevski, Casemiro, Son, and that's pretty much it. So some of them are completely irrelevant FPL-wise, but just so you have a good idea of the potential price changes tonight. I put some polls out on my channel, which includes the captaincy, and Isak is still top despite the yellow flag with 45% of the vote. Salah is second with 34%, Palmer third, so pretty much the same stats as what I read out in my team selection video yesterday. As for the poll in regards to my transfer plans, Sarr to Gordon for no hit did win the vote with 54%, but I no longer can make that transfer because Gordon went up in price overnight, so I'm actually priced out by 0.1 million. So that is out of the cards for me this week. If I want to buy Gordon, it has to be for a hit, unless I sell one of Salah, Palmer, or Mbeumo, which just isn't on the agenda for me. Then the other options, I mean, not many votes between all of them to be fair, but the Pickford Gordon transfers for a -4 hit, selling Ryan the process, not very popular amongst those that voted. You can still vote, by the way, if you haven't already. And this is one I put out today because if I don't make a transfer, which is looking more likely now, I would have to start one of Semenyo or Chris Wood this week. The alternative being Colwill/Veltman both starting, which I don't want to do. And most of you have gone for Chris Wood to start and Semenyo on the bench. We could see the Ghanaian start up front with no Unal, who suffered another ACL injury. Hopefully he recovers very soon. And also Ivanosen, who's going to be out for several weeks minimum, possibly even months. But Bournemouth could be in the market for a striker, and it could be Ouattara playing down the middle instead of Semenyo. So as for Drafthound, they still recommend the same transfers as before, selling one of Robinson, Vandenberg, Veltman or Colwill. They are really bullish on Lewis Hall. And as for the captaincy and who to start and who to bench, they've actually gone for Semenyo first on the bench, Chris Wood to start, also Palmer as the vice and Salah as the captain. So Isak has gone slightly down because of that yellow flag, and Salah is the top dog for Drafthound once again. Let's now go to the stats section. I'm going to compare to the best midfielders to buy this week. For me, Anthony Gordon is still a better FPL asset than Bruno Fernandes, but the stats are very close. You look at the shots in the box, shots on target, they're identical. XG, expected assists, big chances, every single stat pretty much. Look at the key passes, both of them with 43. But Anthony Gordon for me is a better FPL asset because he plays in a superior team who are in incredible form right now. And Gordon is showing real consistency, which Bruno Fernandes hasn't really done so. And of course, I bought him a couple of weeks ago and he got sent off against Wolves. Let's go to fpl.team and show you what I could do in Gameweek 22 if I roll the transfer this week. So I think Semenyo against Newcastle is benchable, but he does return when you least expect him to. Ismail Assar against West Ham looks a bit more appealing, but ultimately, with 2 free transfers, I just can't see myself rolling again. So if I don't pull the trigger this week, I almost certainly will in Gameweek 22. Bolstering my defensive line is a priority for me. Of course, adding more double Gameweek players from Liverpool and Everton, that could be Pickford in goal. It could also be one of Mikalenko or Ashley Young, not to mention a Liverpool option like Konate or Trent. And I am looking at using the assistant manager chip on Arne's slot in Gameweek 24. That is a real possibility for me. So that is something I'm definitely pondering at the moment. But I also look at the midfield. Anthony Gordon is definitely a priority for me, and I should have bought him in a couple of weeks ago when I had the chance. But the front line is pretty strong on paper. The only reason I'd make a change there is to sell Jackson to fund other moves like Gordon in the midfield. Otherwise, I'm very content with Isak, Jackson and Chris Wood with those fixtures, all at home, unless there is an injury or suspension. But we'll talk more about that in the team selection video in a couple of days' time. And finally, FPL Challenge. If you haven't locked in your teams, maybe try to do so before the deadline. And of course, deadlines do work a bit differently in FPL Challenge. But I've gone for Pickford, Munoz, Salah, Fernandes and Isak. I made this team about a week ago. I'll probably make some changes, and maybe after this deadline is closed, I'll go into FPL Challenge and make some tweaks in at least 1 or 2 positions because I think there is a bit of room for improvement. So let's now go back to FPL, the website, and talk about my team, answering your questions and comments and all of that stuff. Like the video if you haven't already. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes and to make more progress towards our new goals in 2025. So 22k, maybe we're going back 2 years now. 32,000 subscribers is the new aim, of course, for 2025. So let's make some big strides towards those goals. Sahil says, Matoma to Murphy, he's on my bench anyway. Yeah, Matoma is a sell for me. I like Jacob Murphy, but I'd rather buy Rodgers or Amad Diallo at a similar price. And not to mention Anthony Gordon as your Newcastle midfield coverage would be even better. But Matoma being sold is definitely the right play. I suggested this several weeks ago, actually. But in terms of all your transfers, it's probably Joao Pedro to Chris Wood next week, if anything. Cyril says, I don't know why I still have Havertz. I was looking to sell him, but he did return the last 2 Premier League fixtures he started. He also has Spurs, Wolves, West Ham and Leicester in the next 6. What should I do? That's a good question, and I think you're quite right. Havertz wasn't in terrible form before the cup games this week, let's put it that way. He did miss a few matches, though, against Brentford and Brighton, which probably hasn't helped him at all. But Havertz can have those days where he just misses every single chance. We know this from his Chelsea days, of course, and he has done it a few times for Arsenal already. But he's not a terrible FPL asset, but there are better. Cody Gakpo, Mateta, Cunha, Jackson. Yeah, there's plenty others that will offer better value, not to mention Chris Wood and Jimenez. So I'd be looking to sell him. And there could be some occasions, well, to be fair, with Jesus being injured, Havertz will play down the middle pretty much every single week now. There is the possibility Arsenal could tweak things a little bit play Martinelli or Trossard up front, but we rarely see that. So, yeah, I think Havertz will do fairly well in some of these games coming up, but there is better value to be had elsewhere. And I think there could be an upgrade to really enforce in that position too. Hi Dylan, start Pedro with Semenyo first on the bench and then start Colwill or Estupinian. Yeah, that's absolutely sound. It's just, I'd personally consider starting Semenyo because I don't think Joao Pedro starts. But that's a personal opinion of mine. I could be wrong. Start Colwill or Estupinian. Slight preference for Estupinian. And I've currently got a similar dilemma with Veltman. I'm starting him over Colwill. But Chelsea have a good record against Bournemouth in the last couple of matches anyway. Play Aina or Munoz. It's going to be Munoz this week for sure. I know Nottingham Forest kept the clean sheet at Anfield earlier this season, but I'd be very surprised if Liverpool don't score today. My team is Henderson, Fabianski, Trent, Robinson, Hall, Mikalenko, Gabriel, Salah, Palmer, Rodgers, and Mbumo, Sarr, Isak, Wood, Jackson. I have 5 free transfers. What do you suggest? Yeah, good position to be in. So let's kind of break this down. Your defensive line is actually quite good. I don't think that needs many changes. Your goalkeepers, maybe swap Dean Henderson despite the fact he's got good fixtures coming up. I would be looking to buy Gordon in the midfield if you can. Now, I don't know what your budget is, so I'm going to have to guess this. If you need money, you might need to downgrade somebody like Jackson, and there you can go to Raul Jimenez, for example, and then use those funds to go from Sarr to Gordon. I think that looks really good. I'd also consider Dean Henderson to Sells or Pickford, and at the moment I'd rather buy Pickford with that double in Gameweek 24. So that's what I would do at the moment. You don't need to make all 5 transfers just yet. So I think 1 or 2 is fine. You don't even need to make the Dean Henderson to Pickford move this week, actually. So really what I'd suggest is to do Sarr to Gordon, and if you need to make money available, I'd downgrade Jackson in this case to somebody like Raul Jimenez. Gordon captain isn't a bad shout. His record against Wolves isn't amazing. I think he's got 1 goal in 4 games, if not 3. But look, that's only one aspect of the captaincy. He's in great form, so are Newcastle. And despite Wolves showing some promising signs under the new manager, you'd still back Newcastle to get a victory there. So, yeah, Gordon is in the top 10, but I think there are better options on paper. I hope Forest wins. If not, I'm done with the league. I wouldn't really have confidence in Nottingham Forest here. I mean, they've got a chance. They've done it earlier this season, but I'd be very shocked if they got a win here. Bench Rodgers, Trent, or Gabriel. From these 3, I'd actually look to bench Trent, which might seem a bit crazy, but that is my current take. I do think Forest can score, but Liverpool will probably get the win. FPL Glory Algeria says, hey Dylan, I did Luis Diaz to Gordon. I hate rotation risks, and I think Gordon is more solid than Diaz. Oh yeah, Gordon is more consistent with minutes. The only downside to that transfer is the fact that Diaz doubles in Gameweek 24, but is he going to start both matches there? It's not a guarantee. Mbumo, Semenyo, Wood, bench 1. Well, I've currently benched Semenyo, so that's pretty much an answer to your question. Thoughts on Haaland captain? Yeah, he is highly rated on the Fantasy Football Hub algorithm in terms of player rankings and predicted points for Gameweek 21. Yeah, it's a good one. I think Brentford away is still relatively tough, but they have lost quite a lot of times there in recent weeks. They lost to Forest, Arsenal, Plymouth in the FA Cup. So there is definitely a downturn in form there. But you'd still expect Brentford to have chances, but they're going to concede a lot of opportunities too. And Haaland's in good form himself, 3 goals in 2 games. Man City just scored 8, albeit against Salford. Yeah, I think Haaland's a good captaincy option. He's right up there. He's in the top 4 for me. My captain at the moment is Salah, but it's between him and Isak for me. Palmer's an outsider. I don't see myself deviating away from those 3. I think they're by far the best options in my 15-man squad this week. So, yeah, one of them will be my captain. Right now, Salah is the slight preference, but that could change because for most of the week, I was keen on Isak. Semenyo and Jackson to Bruno and Raul for free, says Greenia. Yeah, good transfers overall. I do like Jackson, but he is a cash cow. I have discussed this in detail throughout the week. But overall, good moves. I do prefer Gordon over Bruno, though. Hey, Dylan, hope you're well. Start one of Colwill, Murphy flagged, and Chris Wood. Oh, yeah, so let's talk about Chris Wood. Sorry, let's talk about Jacob Murphy and Isak and these updates. So Murphy is currently yellow flagged, and this is what Eddie Howe had to say about Isak, Murphy, Willock, and Botman. he's kind of talking about the injury situation in general, not in relation to one specific player. He said, "We'll have a look at them again today. They were left out with genuine reasons, all different things, but nothing major, we hope. So minor problems that we needed to settle down. Fingers crossed, they'll be there or thereabouts." Eddie Howe isn't the most reliable in press conferences. You can add him to that kind of list with Hurstler, Arteta, etc., where he take what they say in a press conference with a pinch of salt. But I don't know, maybe he's actually being, truthful. He did say they're left out with genuine reasons, but I think most of them will be fine. I'd be fairly confident about Isak and Murphy starting, but Newcastle have the option of starting Harvey Barnes alongside Gordon as the wingers. I don't think that is, how do I say this, as balanced of a front line. I do think Isak, for example, plays better when you've got Jacob Murphy next to him, and you've also got Gordon playing in his best position on the left. But yeah, to answer your question, and of course I was asked about Joao Pedro earlier, and I'll cover that very soon. I would be looking to start Jacob Murphy at the moment, and Chris Wood will be second, Colwill third in that pecking order, Harrison. So in regards to Joao Pedro, because I was asked about this earlier by Matias, these are the full quotes by Hurstler, so they're quite long. I'll try to maybe cut off, when there's a bit of waffle, which is pretty much inevitable with Hurstler. He said, "Yeah, we have to see today, so he will train with the team, Joao Pedro, and then we will decide if we take the risk, and we won't take any risk, only if it's a calculated risk, and if he feels well. So that's the most important, that also the player feels confident with his body, so we don't do any stupid things, but we have to wait for training sessions today, and maybe also tomorrow." And I think he was asked, has it been a frustrating season for him? It feels like it's been disrupted quite a bit with injury. And Hurstler said, yeah, it seems to be that he didn't get into his rhythm, but I talked to him yesterday for a long time and he's quite in a comfortable place. He enjoys it. He's happy with the performance, of course. He'd like to be on the pitch every game, but sometimes your body doesn't want the same thing, so you have to adapt. But in the end, I think he's in a good place. He's performing quite good when he's on the pitch. Of course, he had some bad phases already, yada, yada, yada. So that pretty much is the Joao Pedro update. I personally think he doesn't start in Gameweek 21. If you have a different opinion, let me know in the live chat. Trenix says bench one, Wood, Robinson or Colwill. I'm not sure if this has been answered already, but from those three, I'd bench Colwill. Glyn says, hi Dylan, Jackson, Sarr to Raul, Gordon. If you can just do Sarr to Gordon for free, perfect. And I probably should have pulled the trigger yesterday. If you need to sell Jackson as well to make the move possible, I'd probably still do it, but I'm less keen. I do like Jackson for the next couple. Play one, Mateta or Jackson. This week it would be Mateta. But like I mentioned earlier, Jackson I'm quite bullish on against West Ham and Wolves coming up fairly soon. Sergey says, hello Dylan, bench one, Roger, Joao Pedro, Wood. At the moment, it has to be Joao Pedro because I don't think he starts. And I could be wrong about it, but that is my personal take. Dogbead Win says, who to captain? Well, I've currently got Salah. And I was on Isak for most of the week, but they're all brilliant captaincy options. There's not much separating them. It's probably the closest we've had a captaincy in quite a while. Black Shadow says, hi Dylan, do you think it's time to get rid of the Arsenal defence and best replacements for Raya? I still think you should have one Arsenal defender or Raya in goal. But in terms of doubling or tripling up on the Gunners defensively, yeah, I think you're less keen on doing so now. But I still think they'll keep plenty of clean sheets and they've got some good fixtures coming up. Let's not forget that. After Spurs and Aston Villa. But yeah, if you got a double up defensively, I would consider trimming it down. And Gabriel, for me, is still the best option. The best replacement for Raya is Pickford for me. He's doubling in 24. He's fixture-proof. New manager bounce, possibly. So there's a few reasons why Pickford could be the best option again. Double Gameweek 24 with Salah with 2 Everton players and 1 Liverpool player, says Easy 99. Yeah, so I think you'd rather have more Liverpool players. And if it's not a triple up in Liverpool, maybe 2, and you go for Arne Slot as your assistant manager. But with Everton, I think 1 or 2 is fine. You don't need 3 for sure. But Liverpool would be the priority. No doubt about it. Should I start Aina or Joao Pedro, says Runak. I would start Joao Pedro here, but like I mentioned earlier, I don't think he starts. Thoughts on Gordon captain? He's in the top 10 for me, but there are better choices on paper, which I talked about earlier. What's good, Dylan? Thoughts on Arsenal? Yeah, I'd rather not talk about that. Callum Jr. says, opinions on Mateta until Gameweek 28. I would be getting rid of Joao Pedro, and yes, Joao Pedro is not a bad asset. He just seems to be causing problems in terms of starts and dropping deep at times. Yeah, I like Mateta as a short-term punt. I discussed this in my wildcard video, being a placeholder of sorts for the likes of Cunha later in the season, or maybe Cody Gakpo around Game Week 23 or 24. But yeah, Mateta's absolutely fine as a placeholder. The reason why I'm not looking to go there is because I've got Ismaila Sarr already, but that could definitely change soon, as Ismaila Sarr isn't really an option I'm that keen on, and he could be on the chopping block for me fairly soon. Hi Dylan, I'm wildcarding Eze or Sarr. At the moment it would be Eze, and it would be Robinson if money is no issue for you. Start Robinson or Gabriel? Gabriel. And that also answers Nabin's question. Thank you, Keith, by the way, for moderating the chat. Start free Jackson, Iwobi, Joao Pedro, Ahmad. Yeah, I'd probably look to bench... Look, Jackson and Ahmad start. Let's just make that clear. Then it's between Joao Pedro and Iwobi. And if it wasn't for this yellow flag and the Hustler quotes, I'd be very keen to say Joao Pedro, but that's a closer one. I'd probably give the slight edge to Joao Pedro, but if he doesn't start, you might end up regretting it. Sell Jesus or roll and start Wood. Depends who you can sell him to. Because if it's like Isak, for example, I just pull the trigger. I think he's going to play in Game Week 21, and therefore that'd be a great upgrade. But otherwise, you're looking at Mateta, Gakpo, Raul Jimenez. I'd be happy to start Chris Wood in this case, but he's never scored against Liverpool in his career. Captain on Palmer, then play Wood or Rodgers. Yeah, Palmer's absolutely fine as a captaincy option. I'd rather play Rodgers over Chris Wood this week. Diaz or Joao Pedro? Probably Diaz. I think he starts against Nottingham Forest, and I don't think Joao Pedro does. I've had Veltman since he had that mystery injury against Southampton. He got me one decent return against Brentford, but he has been a disastrous transfer. Not the first I've done this season. But yeah, look, Veltman is on the chopping block. It's just I've also been effing around with transfers throughout most of December. Start one of Dunk, Howson, and Konsa. Not too keen on any of them, to be fair, but it probably would have to be Lewis Dunk here. If it was Kirkes, I know Howson has got the goal for it from set pieces, but if it was Kirkes, I'd maybe lean towards him. In this case, I'd probably go for Dunk. Gakpo or Wood for the long term, it'd be Chris Wood for me. I think he's a better FPL asset than Gakpo, but it's all a question of timing, right? If you're buying one now, and most of us would favour Liverpool in that matchup, you'd probably go for Gakpo, not to mention the double in Game Week 24, which is probably the determining factor. But yeah, Chris Wood for me. I'll do score predictions at the very end. If, for example, we cover most of these questions and there's a bit of time, I'll go through them earlier, but I tend to do them after the deadline has passed. Good to see you as well, Z4YD. Daily Dose says Colwill, Robinson, Gabriel, Aina, bench 1. It's probably Aina this week, reluctantly, but you could arguably bench Colwill here. Aina's a much better FPL choice than Colwill. There's no denying that, but the fixture is very difficult. Yeah, Havertz to Gakpo looks fairly decent. I'd probably pull the trigger. Wood over Solanke this week. It's close, but I'd probably go for Chris Wood, yeah. Jackson, Martinelli out. Pedro, Gordon in. Isak captain. Yeah, looks pretty good. It's just Joao Pedro. I'm not sure if he starts, mate. But if he does, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Renan Costa says Robinson, Mazraoui, Rodgers and Enzo start too. It's probably going to be Rodgers and Mazraoui here, just because Southampton are terrible. I don't trust United defensively, and I think Robinson is far better in most weeks, but I'd give a slight exception in Game Week 21. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes is also in the top 10 easily, maybe even top 5 for the captaincy, but United are so inconsistent, so don't be surprised if they struggle against Southampton. They should get the win, but never say never. Is Ahmad captain a good consideration? He could play wing back, so if you're happy with him potentially playing that role and just coming off the back of a minor injury, then go for it, but I'd rather go for Bruno Fernandes from that same game. Captain Salah, Isak or Haaland? At the moment, I've gone for Salah. I'd probably rank Isak slightly higher than Haaland, but those three and Palmer, maybe Bruno Fernandes too, those 5 are probably the top 5 standouts this week. Kulusevski to Ahmad. Yeah, look, I like Ahmad as a transfer. Not for the captaincy. I'd be less keen on that personally, but if you want to go for it, be my guest. Yeah, Kulusevski is a decent FPL choice. He scored again against Tamworth as a substitute, but yeah, I think Ahmad offers better value for money. Hi Dylan, I'm wildcarding. I covered this question earlier. There's been speculation of a Game Week 25 Spurs double if they qualify for the League Cup final. Yeah, so that's why I showed you the Fantasy Football Hub FDR. And yeah, Fulham and Liverpool had that kind of... Fulham and Spurs had that double in 25, the possible one. I personally think Liverpool will make a comeback in the second leg and they'll reach the League Cup final. and face Newcastle. But just in case, because you have to prepare for eventualities, yeah, it definitely would be interesting. If that's the case, would the assistant manager chip be better than the triple captaincy and do slot in 24 and transfer in Ange of 25? Great point, because you can have two doubles essentially. That's actually a really good shout. So if Spurs actually went through to the final and they had that double in 25, then yeah, I think the assistant manager chip becomes more powerful than the triple captaincy. Although you can still play the triple captaincy on Salah in 24, then use the assistant manager chip on maybe Postecoglou in 25. So it really depends on how you approach it, but I think it is possible that the Assman chip, as they say, becomes even better than the triple captaincy. Otherwise, if we do get that Liverpool-Newcastle final, which is very likely, yeah, triple captaincy for me would still be the priority. Good afternoon, Dylan. Should I start Konate or Mikalenko? Slight preference for Konate, but yeah, Everton are a bit of a funny one. You never know when they're going to keep a clean sheet. Jesus replacements, I've covered them to death, mate, but yeah, apart from the obvious Isak, I'd be looking at Gakpo, Mateta, Raul Jimenez, Chris Wood. Probably in that order in terms of ranking them to buy this week. But if it was in Game Week 22, for example, I'd rank Chris Wood higher than Jimenez because overall he's a better player and asset. Captaining Mateta this game week, says Ala Madrid. Good luck. I hope it goes well for you. Sahil says, should I captain Bruno or Ahmad or Isak? For me personally, it would be Isak, but if you wanted to go for the United asset, it would be Bruno. I think with Amad Diallo coming off the back of an injury, albeit a small one, and possibly playing as a wing-back because Dallo is suspended, I'd be less keen on Diallo. On paper, at least. He's still a talented player and he could do really well. But back your gut on that one. Ghost says, do not captain Isak. I want to see why you think that. Is it because you think I'm going to jinx him or whatever it is? I'd be very interested to see. Hey Dylan, what do you think? Gvardiol plus Enzo to Munoz and Eze. Yeah, good transfers overall. I'd probably pull the trigger. I've never been a big fan of Enzo in FPL, and I think that's an upgrade. Start Fabianski or Sells? I would go for Fabianski this week, but only just. I think Liverpool score 1 or 2 goals, minimum. Rodgers or Wood to start? Rodgers. Hi Dylan, should I sell Jackson to Mateta or someone else? I would only make that move if you're going to upgrade somebody else and buy Gordon or Bruno. Otherwise, I'd keep Jackson. I think he's still arguably better than Mateta. Z4YD says, after wildcard plus 0.4 million, sells Fabianski, Aina, Munoz, Greaves, Hall, Konate, Palmer, Salah, Mbeumo, Ahmad, Gordon, Wood, Mateta, Isak. I would reconsider Greaves if you can. I know it's 3.9 million, but if you can find a better option like Castagna, I'd rather make that upgrade. But it's also important for some people to have money in the bank for that Asman chip, as they say, the assistant manager chip for Game Week 24, 25 perhaps, but that's not the only time you can use it. But yeah, definitely Greaves upgrade. The rest is absolutely fine. Do you think Mazraoui starts? Good question. I think with Dallo's suspension, and of course I did say Diallo can play there as well, and Dallo has played mainly on the left this season. I do think Mazraoui starts, but he could be subbed off early. We're talking about 50, 60 minutes, and you are running the risk. I don't think he plays 90 against Southampton, let's put it that way. Start Trent or Aina? It's going to be Trent. I favour Liverpool to win this game, and he's got just a much higher ceiling than Aina. Semenyo and Jackson to Bruno and Raul for free. Like I said earlier, I'd go for it, but Jackson is still a good asset. You don't need to sell him, in my opinion. So yeah, there is a lot of questions coming in, and yeah, let's try to whiz through these because it looks like we are very far behind. So join you at 5. Appreciate Twister Parky, Sar, Mbeumo, Raul, start 1. Only 1. I mean, Mbeumo should never be benched really unless he's facing Liverpool on current form maybe, but difficult to say. Sar has the best fixture, but he's the least consistent of the 3. I would probably start Mbeumo. Sell Wissa. You might want him back around Game Week 23 to be fair, but there are better options right now, like Gakpo, Mateta. That's been covered to death. Who to bench, Colwell or Kirkes? That's a really close one. I'd have a slight preference for Kirkes. Rodgers or Joao Pedro? Rodgers. I would start Aina over Borro. But then again, with Arsenal's blunt attack, yeah, this is not the worst time to play Spurs players, especially the defenders. You know, I'd go for Bodro, but that's only because of Arsenal's recent struggles. Otherwise, I think Aina is just generally the better asset this season. Hey Dylan, Rogers or Joao Pedro, that's been covered. And should I go Diaz to Bruno for a -4? I mean, if you're really bullish on United and Bruno this week, then yeah, -4 is fine. But Diaz does double in 24, and you might want that triple up in Liverpool. It is all team dependent, but I'd probably keep Diaz. Jackson or Wood? Jackson this week. Colwill or Kirkes to Hall or a different defender? I'd rather sell Colwill. Kirkes has worse fixtures, but I think he offers better value. He's got more about him than Colwill, who is quite one-dimensional as an FPL asset. I just covered Isak a few minutes ago, mate, so just be sure to rewind. Basically, Eddie Howe said that the likes of Jacob Murphy, Botman, and Isak genuinely had issues, but they're going to see where they are. So he didn't really give much away, but I'd expect them to be fine. Start Cunha or Iwobi? Cunha. Start Lewis Hall or Robinson? Lewis Hall. Hi Dylan, which defender should I bench? Robinson, Van Dijk, Gabriel or Hall? From those four, it's probably going to be Robinson this week. Gabriel and Hall start for me, especially Lewis Hall. I think he's the best one on paper. Bruno and Murphy or Gordon and Ahmad for Odegaard and Enzo. Both good duos, but I'd go for Gordon and Ahmad. Hi Dylan, who is the best forward for Gameweek 21? I mean, apart from Haaland and Isak, you're probably looking at Mateta on paper. I think Jimenez also enters the top 5. But yeah, it's probably going to be Haaland. Start Ahmad or Wood? Ahmad. And sell Jackson to Raul, only if you're going to make an upgrade elsewhere. Otherwise, I'd keep Jackson for now and reassess later down the line. Foden to Fernandes have 2 free transfers. Looks decent. I mean, Bruno could always burn you. He's done it to me already this season. But yeah, Gordon for me is the priority. Mbeumo's also better long-term than Bruno, but yeah, he's fine. Yeah, I think Isak plays. Sell Martinelli to Gordon. Yep. Eze captain differential. Not for me. I think Palace are way too inconsistent and Eze has had a poor season. But in recent weeks, he has stepped it up. He's obviously got the goal in the FA Cup, the winner. He also got the assist against Chelsea and the goal and 10 points against Southampton not so long ago. Look, if you're feeling it, don't let me discourage you, but I think Fernandes, Haaland, Salah, Palmer, Isak, Gordon, they're all better options for me this week. Trent to Munoz? No. I mean, Trent is going to double in 24. Not for me. Aranya says start Greaves or Jesus to who for free? Oh, yeah, I'd be looking to sell Jesus. Gakpo or Mateta for me would be the answer, but I don't know what your team is looking like. So if you have only one Liverpool player, I'd be quite intrigued to buy Gakpo, double up on them, maybe use the chip on Arne's slot in Gameweek 24-25, but you might have used or not used the triple captaincy already. So there's a lot of different factors that play a big part. But yeah, Jesus to one of Gakpo or Mateta would be the answer for me. Hopefully we haven't missed any super chats. Yeah, there is one by Mitra here. What's your take on Savio for the next 2 weeks as a punt? So yeah, there are decent fixtures for an attacker, and Savio has been in brilliant form. His output before the last few weeks has been very poor for Man City, but he is a young player. He's a raw player, and he's going to get even better over the years. The thing is, it's all circumstantial, right? But I probably wouldn't go there because City's fixtures afterwards are pretty terrible, and I'm not fully convinced that City are back. They beat Salford 8-0. They've got 3 wins in a row. They're scoring goals. But I do think against better opponents, if they don't control those games like they weren't earlier this season, they're going to really struggle to even create those chances because they're going to be so insecure. And we've seen that time after time again during that winless streak very recently. But look, I don't think Savio's a horrible pick. And once City's fixtures clear up, I think he should be on our radars for sure. And he's going to be quite nailed on, so to speak, in that Man City team for now. But you've got Gordon, Mbeumo, Fernandes at a cheaper price point. I mean, well, Eze's slightly more expensive, but you've got the likes of Ismail Assar, Rogers, and Ahmad. I think Savio over Sarr is definitely debatable. That could definitely be said. But with the others, I'd rather go in that direction over Savio right now. Start free of Trent, Robinson, Burn, Tosin, and Timber. I would go for Trent, Robinson, and probably Burn. Latest on Isak and Murphy, just covered that a few minutes ago. Basically, Eddie Howe said they had genuine problems. He was talking about a group of players, including those two and Botman, for example. But yeah, that's been covered a few minutes ago. Hi Dylan, sell Enzo for Ahmad or Savio. I'd rather go for Ahmad. He's even cheaper, better fixtures, and I think what Ahmad allows you to do is rotate with your third forward or your other midfielder, which could be Rodgers, and I think that works really well. Yeah, Gordon captain, top 10 for me, but not in my top 5. I think there are better options for me personally. I'd love to buy him though, and I probably should have done it last night. Yeah, Bruno, I'd rank higher than Gordon for the captaincy this week, but in general, Gordon is the better FPL asset. Best replacement for Howson, I don't think you need to sell him, but at that price and below, you're looking at Castagna or Anderson. I think the best one though is Mikalenko. He's got the double in Gameweek 24, new manager bounce possibly, and I think Everton will keep a few clean sheets even with David Moyes arguably not being as good defensively when structuring a team as Sean Dyche is. So we could see a downturn in terms of, Everton clean sheets in general. But yeah, I think probably going to be one of those three. Nico Williams is another one. He should be considered, but I'd go for Mikalenko. Bruno, Murphy, Gordon, Mbumo, Ahmad, Gordon, which one is better? I don't quite get how this works. So is this like a duo question? So Bruno, Murphy, or Gordon and Mbumo, and then Ahmad, Gordon. Yeah, I'm not sure. It would be Gordon and Mbumo long term for me, if that's what the question is. Heideland start 2 of Semenyo, Pedro and Wissa. I would probably bench Rob Pedro because I don't think he starts. If it wasn't for that kind of flag though and the Hursler comments, it would be Semenyo on the bench for sure. So a very close one, but Wissa would start for me. Start Gakpo or Ahmad? Ahmad. And captain Salah or Isak. At the moment, I'm going for Salah. Throughout most of this week, though, I had the armband on Isak, which I covered in my transfer plans and the team selection videos, but I always said it's 50-50 for me. Raul or Joao Pedro next week? Probably Raul Jimenez. John says, should I wildcard? Okay, your goalkeeper's fine. You could arguably go for Pickford instead, but that's only because of the double. I think Sells is probably number 1 in terms of FPL goalkeepers anyway. Yeah, I think you've got a pretty good team, to be fair. I don't think you need to wildcard. I'd probably just stick with free transfers, to be fair. The changes you probably want to make over the next few weeks are Greaves. I know it's kind of like small, but even him to Mikalenko really helps you for the double. You might also want to consider... That's the thing, I'd be nitpicking for a lot of these. Maybe Sells to Pickford if you just don't know what to do with your team. But I honestly don't think you need to wildcard. Because you've got Aina already, that's why I think Sells to Pickford could work for you. But really, you're in a good place. You don't need to wildcard. Start Robinson or Lewis Robinson. Jackson to Wood, Enzo to Gordon versus Enzo to Sarr. Yeah, Enzo to Gordon is my favourite. But yeah, I'm guessing that's also part of the Jackson to Chris Wood transfer. I'd probably make those moves instead. Enzo to Sarr could work, but I'm not that keen on Sarr. I shouldn't have bought him, and I did say this when I actually made the transfer a few weeks ago. But yeah, I'd probably just sell Jackson in this case. Hi Dylan, thoughts on Jesus to Havertz? I know Arsenal fans hate him these days, but he's on 90 minutes every game and decent home fixtures. It depends what section of the Arsenal fan base you're talking to. He still gets a lot of support, but you can't really forgive the mistakes and the big misses he made against Newcastle and Man United. I mean, it's not even just the question of a top quality striker scores them. Any professional footballer should be burying those. I don't think Havertz is a terrible FPL pick, but if I'm buying a striker right now, I'm looking at Gakpo for the double in 24, Mateta with those fixtures, Cunha, despite the fact he's got terrible games on paper. You've also got Chris Wood. There's so many options there. If this was like this time last year when Arsenal started getting their groove around, late January to early February, that sort of, Arsenal in form and Havertz scoring goals, then yeah, I'd be on board. But at the moment, I just think there are better alternatives. Is it worth going a -4 for Eze or Munoz? Really depends who you're selling, mate. I'd probably say no in either scenario. Ahmad or Sarr? This week, Ahmad. LG says, is it worth bringing in Munoz this week for either Kirkes or Colwill, or waste of a valuable transfer? I don't think it's a waste, but rolling is powerful, especially this season and in a time frame like this with an upcoming double with Liverpool and Everton in 24. I'd personally make the move from Colwill to Munoz. You've got great long-term fixtures. The only downside is that Crystal Palace will likely blank in Game Week 29, which could kind of pressure you into a free hit in that blank game week, but that's definitely, up for debate anyway. I'd make the move personally. Chris Wood or Diaz? This is close. It's very, very close, but I'd probably go for Diaz. Big Sam says start Sells or Sanchez. Already playing Colwill. I just don't see any world where Forest keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, and I'd be very happy to be proven wrong. But because you've got Colwill already in your starting 11, I would probably consider going for Sells in this case. Sell Larson for Raul, João Pedro Cunha, or a -4. Sell Ahmad Sarr for Gordon, plus sell Trent for Van Dijk. No, I definitely want to do the latter moves for me. Yeah, Larson to one of Raul or João Pedro looks pretty good. Even Cunha. I do think Cunha long-term is better than the others, but if I'm buying a striker right now, it is Raul Jimenez. So, yeah, that's the best move for you. Start João Pedro or Semenyo. I did cover this a few times earlier today, so I don't think João Pedro starts, and based on that assumption, which could be wrong, I would start Semenyo. If it wasn't for those quotes by Hurstler, though, I would probably just chance it and start João Pedro, but I do think he's going to be on the bench. That's my personal take on it. You've got to back your gut. If you think João Pedro is going to start, I'd play him over Semenyo. That's the way I'd break it down to people, but I personally don't think he does. Start Wood or Rodgers. Rodgers, mate. Start Flecken or Sells. Sells. Start Robinson or Lewis. Yeah, I covered this earlier. Robinson. Gabriel Van Heck. Gabriel. Thoughts on Gakpo, Dylan? I don't think he's amazing. He has been in great form, scoring some clutch goals for Liverpool, but it's really that double in Game Week 24 which makes him appealing. He's a low-owned player, can make a difference, and for those like myself with only one Liverpool asset in Salah, it is a nice way of covering their attack, and you can still leave a slot open for Arne Slot if you want to use the Assman chip. Wissa to Gakpo, a good transfer in the following weeks. Yes, but you'd probably rather do it now, because I know next week they play Liverpool, which is even tougher, but then Brentford have some good fixtures, and you might want to reverse that move or actually keep Wissa if you haven't made it already. So, yeah, I'd probably make the move now. I know Forest away isn't the best of games to invest in, but then you've got Ipswich Town, you've got the double for Liverpool, and you can always go back to Wissa, to be fair, fairly soon afterwards. But I see what you're saying. I just wouldn't be selling Wissa to Gakpo in Game Week 23 necessarily, because Wissa has good fixtures of his own. Yeah, you can see the answer basically on screen, Duarte, because I've currently got Wood over Semenyo in my starting 11. So yeah, we've covered a lot of these things already. Let's go to some new questions. Ahmad or Sarr? Ahmad this week. Hi Dylan, I have 3.9 million in the bank. Should I sell Enzo or Johnson to Ahmad or Bruno? So Enzo to Ahmad or Johnson to Bruno? Yeah, probably Enzo to Ahmad. Iwobi to Ahmad or Sarr, Foden to Fernandes? Is that Sarr / Foden, or are you selling both of them? I don't get that, but if I had to pick, it's probably going to be the Ahmad one again. Jackson, KDB, Lewis to Mazraoui, Bruno and Isak. I would not be buying United defenders. For this week, great. It looks like a nice one-week punt, but beyond it, I wouldn't trust United for a clean sheet at all. Bruno, I'm more keen on. He's got the attacking potential, many different avenues to points, bonus points machine, but yeah, I just wouldn't do that Mazraoui move. Lewis Hall, Munoz, Castagna, Anderson, Robinson. There are so many better defenders than Mazraoui long term. Is it worth getting Alisson for Flecken? Don't have any Liverpool defender. I'm not that keen on Flecken, to be fair. He can get 3 or 4 points, which isn't terrible, but he's not going to get many clean sheets. Yeah, I think Alisson's fine. It's just when you compare him relatively to the likes of Trent, Konate, Gakpo on current form, Salah, and even Arne Slot, dare I say, it does become a bit tricky. And also, you've got Pickford, who's even cheaper, and he's going to get more points than Alisson this season. And the thing I don't like about Alisson is the fact that he's injury prone for a goalkeeper. He just gets injured way too often. So, look, he's not a bad pick. I don't think he's terrible, but I probably wouldn't do it. Thank you, Singh. Is there any Forest rumours of Wood injury? No, as far as I'm aware, none at all. Aranya says, my team, Raya, Fabianski, Hall, Colwill, Trent, Greaves, Vandenberg, Salah, Palmer, Gordon, Sarr, Jackson, Isak, Jesus. Roll or Jesus to who for free? 7.4 million in the bank. Okay, so yeah, Reeves is the one I just don't want to start this week. Even Colwill, I'm not a big fan of starting him. But yeah, for me, so let's break this down. So Raya would start in goal, but you could go for Fabianski if you wish. Hall, Trent, and Colwill here would start. Then Salah, Palmer, Gordon, Sarr, Jackson, Isak. Yeah, I would sell Jesus, and like I mentioned to you earlier, one of Gakpo or Mateta is probably what I'd look at. You do have Sarr already, and I'm not a big fan of doubling up on Palace offensively. You could turn Sarr into Amad Diallo fairly soon, or Rodgers, but that's definitely like a personal taste of mine. But yeah, I'd probably go to one of Mateta or Gakpo, mate. And since you've got Trent, Salah already, it really depends now on your chip strategy. If you use the triple captaincy already, I would consider using the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot in Gameweek 24. And you can always make a transfer at some stage anyway, but you need that Liverpool spot open for the Dutch manager. And if you are keen on doing that, instead of going for Gakpo, I would suggest Jean-Philippe Mateta or even Raul Jimenez in this case. Next week, if you were to make this move, although I do recommend making it now, I think Chris Wood is kind of a set and forget option up front for you, and he faces Southampton at home next week. So it's all a question of timing, chip strategy, and without knowing the context of some of these things, it's difficult for me to say definitively, but those are some ideas for you. Let me know what you think, and we can, kind of settle on something. And I think you're in a good place anyway. Play Fabianski or Raya? I'd go for Raya personally. I think both of them concede, but Arsenal still have a better defence than West Ham. Start two, Joao Pedro and Boomer and Luis Diaz, says Garen. It's going to be Joao Pedro bench for me. I don't think he starts, which I've said a lot of times today. Hi mate, do you think we should triple captain Salah in Gameweek 24, or do we hold for a better double, possibly in 33 and 36? So I don't remember the exact fixtures, but I do think Haaland could have a very plum double later in the season, which includes Southampton away and then one of Aston Villa or Bournemouth at home. I think this is Gameweek 36, if I'm not mistaken. The problem is, by that stage, Man City could be in an FA Cup final, and they could also be deep into the Champions League. If that's the case, and they've got nothing to play for in the league, they could rotate. I know City don't have any backup striker, so to speak, for Haaland, but he could be subbed off early. They could play a false nine there. So, look, there are going to be triple captaincy opportunities throughout the season. Salah could double in Gameweek 33. But if I still had the armband, or if I still had the chip, should I say, I'd probably play on Salah in Gameweek 24. Gordon or Solanke? Gordon. Why Salah over Isak? Isn't he injured? Neither player is injured. Isak, of course, is yellow flagged. It looks like he picked up a problem against Arsenal, and he was subbed off early as a result. But no, it's a close one for me between Salah and Isak. I've been on the Swedish international for most of the week, but I've decided to go for Salah at the moment. It could change. It has been in the balance all week. Semenyo to Sarr or Eze? It would be Eze, and yeah, Joao Pedro benched because I don't think he starts. Start Estupinian or Colwill, I would go for the Ecuadorian. Sell Martinelli, tempted by Man United but can't reach Bruno. Fair enough, I personally don't share that sentiment. I don't think United should be doubled or tripled up on, which some people are suggesting. Bruno's fine, and I think Ahmad is a decent budget midfielder, but he could play wing back, and he just came off the back of a small injury, which is why he didn't start against Arsenal. But yeah, Martinelli should be sold. I agree with you there. There are some good fixtures, but Arsenal's attack is blunt right now. Martinelli's inconsistent, and I've never been a big fan of him this season or in the last campaign. It's been a while since Martinelli's been a great FPL asset. Raya or Verbruggen for this game week? It's close, but I'd probably go for Raya. Play Fabianski or Sanchez? Fabianski. Semenyo to Eze, Sarr or Gordon. Already missed the price change, or roll and play Rodgers. I think Rodgers is fine, but if you can... Yeah, if you can go to Gordon from Semenyo for free, that's perfect. I would make the move now if I had enough funds for that. Gabriel to Munoz and roll transfer? No. No. Munoz is a good option, but I wouldn't sell Gabriel. Best goalkeeper to have now for future fixtures? Probably Pickford. The way I'd rank it is Pickford first, sell second, and Raya third still. Idle and sell Jackson to Raul, so I can buy Mbeumo, replace Sarr or Ahmad. I'll be honest, mate, I'd keep Jackson for now. You don't have to buy Mbeumo this week. I know he faces City, and he could get some joy there. But then it's Liverpool. I think the best time to buy Mbeumo, if you haven't already, is Game Week 23. So my advice would be to keep Jackson. And I'd keep your options here. In Sarr and Ahmad, I'm guessing that is. So keep those players. And then you can buy Mbeumo in Game Week 23. And by that stage, you can do Jackson to Chris Wood maybe. Or Jimenez, although by that stage, he'll be less appealing. Gavardio and Trent worth holding long-term or downgrade them? I think Trent is worth holding on to for the double at least, then reassess. With Gavardio, you need to see an improvement in City defensively. It's just after Game Week 22, they've got some tough games on paper. I don't see many clean sheets for them, so I think Gavardio is the one to downgrade. Do you think Vandenberg to Hall this week is a good buy? Without a shadow of a doubt, it's a good buy. Bruno or Gordon? Long-term Gordon. If I'm ranking captaincy options this week, Bruno would be ahead, but there's a difference between a one-week punt and a long-term asset, and I think Gordon is better in the next 3, 4, 5, and possibly beyond. Savio, what about him? Start Fabianski over Sells. It's close. I probably would, because I personally think Liverpool scored, I think 1 or 2 goals minimum. It could even be 3. I know Forest have been really impressive. Marmoush is a backup striker for Haaland. He can play anywhere up the front line. And apart from Salah, he's got the most GA in Europe's top 5 leagues. But yeah, look, that's looking really likely that City are going to sign him. But yeah, there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes with triple captaining Haaland later this season anyway. I'm glad I got it out of the way, to be quite honest with you. Heideland, Joao Pedro, Wood, Rodgers, which one to start, and benching order. Yeah, I'd probably start Rodgers. Wood would be first on the bench and Joao Pedro last, because I personally don't think Joao Pedro starts the game. Omar puts his wildcard team. Looks pretty solid. What would you change? Well, you've got Mikalenko for the double. That's fair enough. I mean, look, it's really nitpicking because it's a good team. It's well thought out. So in the midfield, really, really strong. The only one I'd possibly change is Sarr. And I'd go to Rodgers, maybe Ahmad. And if you've got enough money, you could even stretch to Eze, which is probably an upgrade at this moment in time. Your front line is absolutely solid. No real need to change it for now. Although Raul Jimenez in a couple of weeks could look less appealing. So you've got Konate, Alisson and Salah. If you are planning to triple captain Salah in 24, fair enough. But otherwise, maybe consider going for Arne slot in Game Week 24. And if that's the case, you need to free up a Liverpool slot. And I'd probably sell Alisson in this case to Pickford or Sells. Because you've got Milinkovic already, and beyond the Southampton fixture, Forest have some pretty mixed bag fixtures. I think 1 is probably enough to cover their defence. Even with Everton, despite the double, I think 1 is probably the sweet spot. Either Mikalenko or Young, or you just go for Pickford and goal. But yeah, I think Sarr is the one that I'd probably change offensively. The rest is kind of nitpicking and it's about structuring. Do you go for the Everton goalkeeper or the Nottingham Forest one, or do you go for Alisson? I would just consider leaving a Liverpool spot open for Arne slot if you have used the triple captaincy already. SM Moyes says, Henderson, Hall, Gabriel, Aina, Mbeumo, Palmer, Salah, Ahmad, Savio, Isak, Cunha, Subs, Sells, Wood, Munoz, Greaves. Your views? Wildcard is active. Yeah, good team. Good team. I think Savio is a short-term punt. I mean, at least fixtures-wise. I do think you'll get some inconsistencies from him. Despite the recent big returns, I don't think he's going to sustain this. And you've kind of missed the best returns and fixtures already. I think Cunha's a great long-term asset despite the poor games for Wolves there. I would reconsider Dean Henderson. I think there are better goalkeepers elsewhere, like Pickford, Sells, and even Raya. But since you've got Gabriel, you don't need to go for a double up in the Arsenal defence on their current form. So yeah, those are the kind of two nitpicks I'd really have. Savio and Henderson, I'd probably change. Defensively, I'd also look to sell Greaves if you can. So maybe you go to Mikalenko, especially since you've got no Pickford and they are doubling in Gameweek 24. So I'd consider those moves. The rest looks fine. Newcastle got high clean sheet odds. Yes, they do. Now, in my case, if I wanted to buy Lewis Hall this week, it basically means selling one of Gabriel Robinson. I don't want to do that. The alternative is to take a hit. And in that case, I'd have to sell somebody like Raya or maybe Pickford. Raya or possibly Jackson. Pickford could be the replacement for Raya in that case. But yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't mind taking a hit. Now, if I could get Gordon and Hall for a -4, I'd do it. But it probably would be for a -8 in my case. So yeah, I'm probably not going to go there. Not this week anyway. To start any two, Murphy, Rogers and Wood. It'd be the first two. I'd bench Chris Wood from those lot. So I'm going to put a poll out on my channel. I've answered hundreds of questions already. Drop a like if you haven't done so. And subscribe to the channel. Check all the links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. There's also my Discord server, the FPL League Drafthound, as well as Spotify. You can also find me on Blue Sky nowadays by typing FPL Dylan. So check out all the social media platforms and you'll be good to go for FPL and UCL Fantasy, which returns next week. And I'll be making some content there, the best limitless and wildcard teams in separate videos for now, the team selection video, and the deadline stream, of course, next Tuesday. So let's put a poll out and then I'll go back to your questions. So let's see what we can do here. So this will also answer any questions, for some people who haven't seen the transfer plans or team selection videos or who are just tuning in now about what my plans are. So let me just put all of them here. At the moment, the most likely scenario is that I'll roll, but it isn't set in stone. I'm just not a big fan of starting one of Chris Wood or Semenyo this week, but Chris Wood is one of the best forwards in the game, so you could do worse than him. I just have no faith in him scoring against Liverpool, but I'd be very happy to be proven wrong if he is in my starting 11 at least. So the first one would be, let's see. So I can't do Starter Gordon anymore. That is out of the question, so I have to take a hit to buy Gordon. And in that case, I'd just rather sell Semenyo. So Semenyo and Jackson. Let's see if I can actually fit this in. Gakpo and Gordon. Yeah, but -4. Let's see if I can do this. Jackson, Gakpo, Gordon, -4. Transfers would be for a -4 here. All right. And then let's put Raya in there. So that would be... all right, let's do that. All right, should be done fairly soon. And then Raya, Semenyo, Pickford and Gordon. I think apart from that, I mean, I'm looking at my defensive line. I could go really aggressive and take another hit and go for Lewis Hall, but I don't think that's worthwhile, despite his high ceiling against Wolves this week. But yeah, I'll stick with a -4 if I do make transfers. I don't think I'll take a -8 this week. That'd be probably overly aggressive, and I've done too many of those sort of moves in December. Yeah, I think the alternative really would just be to roll the transfer. I don't think anything else would really be worth entertaining. So those are my options. Let me know what you think. Cast your vote in the poll. There are also more on my channel, which I did cover earlier in this live stream about the best captaincy, transfer plans, who to start between Chris Wood and Semenyo. So be sure to check it out. I always put out different polls for UCL Fantasy and FPL for most deadlines. Bram says, should I start Watkins or look for a replacement? Joao Pedro, Lewis and Kirkers on the bench. So I discussed Watkins recently and I thought he's a hold, but when you do break down the upcoming fixtures, Duran is back from suspension now. It is definitely plausible for Duran to start against Everton. Then you've got Watkins getting the nod against Arsenal with his link-up play, good record against Arsenal as well, and also starting in the Champions League. So I think it's a good opportunity now for Duran, who's fully rested, to get back into that side against Everton, and Watkins could make way. As a result, I'd probably look to replace him. You're going to have this issue for most of the season. Watkins will have the nod in most scenarios, but there's going to be like 60-40, 70-30, and for that price, it's simply not worth it. Joao Pedro, Lewis and Kirk is on the bench. That's not a bad bench, to be fair, but Joao Pedro might not start in Game Week 21, and I personally don't think he does. So yeah, in terms of if you are keeping Watkins, I'd start him, but just be aware, just like Joao Pedro, there is a good chance he doesn't start the game. Captaining Haaland, says Manish. Jeff C says start one, Colwill, Rodgers and Wood. Colwill will be at the bottom of this. I would start Rodgers here. No, I've never had Rodgers, mate. Well, I said never had him. I had him earlier this season, but it's been a while. Start Van Dijk or Robinson, says Max07. Close one. If this was Trent, I'd probably lean towards him. But in this scenario, I'm slightly tempted to say Robinson. K-Man Corner says Wood, Timber, Colwill, Rodgers, Pedro, Sarr, bench free. Okay, so I would bench Colwill, Timber, and Joao Pedro because I don't think he starts. Cass TGC says start two. I basically bench Chris Wood. Thank you for the super chat, Napstars. Massively appreciated. Ola, sell Semenya to Ahmad, Sarr, Eze or Savio, and bench free Trent, Gavardio, Timber, Hall, Munoz, Joao Pedro, Wissa or Cunha. Okay, so Semenya to Ahmad looks decent. Sarr, Eze or Savio. Okay, so yeah, those are the options to replace Semenya. My favourite is between Eze and Ahmad. At the moment, a slight preference for Eze. The thing is with Ahmad, though, longer term, he might be best structurally. So you can have a midfield with him and Rodgers and then go for Salah, Palmer and Gordon or Bruno, and that works really well, especially with a competent front line. But yeah, I'd probably go for Eze at the moment. And bench free, I would bench Timber, Gavardio, and Joao Pedro. My current captain is Palmer. Is it better to change for Salah? Palmer's absolutely fine as a captain. I just think Bournemouth are a better opponent. I mean, look, to be fair, Salah is facing Forest. When you're comparing him to Isak, for example, with Palmer, I think Isak's got the easiest opponent on paper. But Palmer is fixture-proof. I just think Bournemouth can go to Stamford Bridge and win. I think they've got the best chance. In terms of Chelsea have the worst chance of any of those teams of getting a win. That's the way I see it. I would not be surprised if Bournemouth get a draw or a win at Stamford Bridge. But Palmer can still do really well if that happens. It's a really close call. I don't even know how to break it down in terms of percentages, but Palmer is third for me in the captaincy list. I think Haaland is also in the top 5 with Bruno Fernandes. But yeah, Palmer is just slightly below in the pecking order for me. Jota to Bruno for a -4. Worth it, says Jack Fish. The thing is, there was the quote recently by Arne Slot suggesting that Jota is very close now to starting games and playing 90 minutes. But Bruno Fernandes has an excellent fixture this week, then faces Brighton and Fulham, 2 teams he has a good record against. So I don't think that's a terrible hit. And you might want to spend that Liverpool spot on another player instead. So I get it. Is it worth a -4 hit this week? I'd probably lean towards yes, but it's very close. Yeah, captaincy rankings. I mean, I'm not even fully sold on Salah versus Isak, to be quite honest with you. Salah is first for me right now. Isak second, Palmer third, Fernandes fourth, Haaland fifth. That's my current top 5. Wissa or Raul? If I'm buying one this week, it's Raul. To start is close as well, because you also have to think about next week where Raul has a better fixture. But yeah, I think for now, in the short term, it's Raul Jimenez. It's going to change though, and I said this a lot to people who are looking to sell Wissa now. By Game Week 23 or 24, you might want to go back to him. Hall or Munoz? Lewis Hall. Foden to Bruno? If so, captain Bruno or Palmer? Palmer for me as the captain, but Bruno's an absolutely fine captaincy option and absolutely fine transfer. Thank you, Napstars, for gifting 5 memberships. Very kind of you, mate. FPL Josh, Diogo, Penguino, Sai, and Ali Mac have all been gifted memberships. So massive shout out to Napstars. That's really kind of you, and good luck for Gameweek 21 as well as the rest of the campaign. Bench Rogers, Delap, or Sa. I would bench. That's close, to be fair. Probably Delap. Delap is another one who's quite unpredictable with his returns. Doing really well against Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah, I think Delap on the bench, but I'm a bit apprehensive about it, to be quite honest with you. Big Sam says bench 1. Yeah, from those lot, it would be Chris Wood benched. Bench 2. Greaves benched, and probably Colwell here. And yeah, you've got Sanchez in goal already, so. Hi Dylan, start Pedro or Wood. Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but I just go for Chris Wood, basically. Yasser says, hey Dylan, bench 2 of Murphy, Munoz, Pedro, Hall, and Rogers. Thank you. I'd bench Joao Pedro and possibly Jacob Murphy. Bench 1, Trent, Gabriel, Robinson, Ahmad, Murphy, says Okta. Yeah, from those players, it might have to be Jacob Murphy. That is a pretty difficult one, though. Yeah, Jesus is he's got an ACL injury, so yeah, he's going to be out for many months. Start Watkins, Rogers, Milenkovic. Rogers. Now, if we had confirmation of Watkins starting, he would take the cake there, but I've got a feeling he's not going to play. Sabri says Isak not starting. Let me know where you got that from, mate. I'd be very intrigued to see that. But yeah, let's keep an eye out for any leaks. I don't know, sometimes we get kind of these false calls and trolling, or people get the wrong information. Let's have a look and see if we can find anything. If you've got a link from Twitter, drop it in the chat and we'll have a look. Do I do Odegaard to Bruno or roll the transfer? I'd make the transfer, but I do prefer Mbumo long term and Anthony Gordon. Yeah, ruptured ACL. Yeah, exactly. We knew it was bad when it happened, but yeah, it's been one of those seasons, I think, for Arsenal fans where you just can't really enjoy any single part of it. So yeah, the injuries has been kind of deflating, but at the same time, it's part and parcel of the game. Some bad luck to get that many. But Gabriel Jesus has been fairly injury-prone for a while now, and Arsenal should have signed a striker, and they should have signed a winger as well in the summer, let alone now. So yeah, it's obviously very bad news for Jesus. Hopefully he recovers very soon. But he might have played his last game for Arsenal, that's for sure. I've already played my triple captain, and I've already have Salah, Trent, and Sarr, so I think I'm leaning towards Jesus to Raul Jimenez for free. Yeah, fair enough. Jimenez is fine. I did mention him as well as a possible move for you. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine, to be fair. Should I transfer Semenyo for Rogers or take a hit? Jackson, Semenyo out for Gordon, Duran. I would not be buying Duran for a hit, even though I think he starts against Everton. Against Arsenal, it will be Watkins, I think, taking the nod, and they'll be sharing minutes and starts throughout the season. So if you are taking a hit for a striker, Duran would not be it for me. As a one-week punt, could it work against Everton? Of course it could, but I don't like the minutes concern. Or take out Mbumo Semenyo. I would not be taking out Mbumo. The only fixture I don't like for him is Liverpool at home, and he could still score there. Semenyo to Rogers is fine. You don't have to make that move this week, but for me, he is an upgrade. I would not be taking a hit, at least with the transfers you talked about. Dylan, start free out of Robinson, Colwell, Gabriel, Mazraoui. I'd bench Colwell and possibly Robbins. Well, no, actually, it's just bench one. Yeah, Colwell bench, easy. Buy Mateta, Gakpo, and bench Wood or play Wood, and buy Solanke next week with long run in mind. Yeah, Solanke's a decent acquisition next week, to be fair. The thing is, I'd probably rather go for Mateta or Gakpo and bench Wood this week. That would be my personal preference, but I think both of them are very viable. I have 2 free transfers. Should I sell Strand Larsen to Raul or Enzo to Ismaila Sarr and start Robinson or Colwill? For the latter question, I'd start Robinson. And for the other one, I think I do Strand Larson to Raul Jimenez. Stuck with João Pedro this week only because if I get Mateta, it will leave Rodgers on my bench. Though his good fixtures, João Pedro to Cunha, Gameweek 27-8 looks good though. Yeah, I get it. I mean, you're obviously in a very good position, so every move counts. But look, if João Pedro starts, that could be a great differential play for you. I just personally don't think he does. Yeah, I don't think this question needs to be answered. Arsenal need a striker. Havertz shouldn't be the main one, and I said this last year, even when he was doing really well, especially in 2024. Arsenal needed a quality striker and a quality winger, preferably on the left, but someone who can play across the entire front line would also go a long way, especially with Saka's current injury. But yeah, Arsenal need a lot of players, to be fair, when you do break it down. Cover for Saka, cover for Odegaard, or a number 10 who really creates, and you can share the burden with Odegaard, and you've got creation, chance creation from different areas of the pitch, and you've got more of a balanced left side. Now, Zubimendi will be signed for Arsenal, it looks like, in the summer, but even if that looks like a great deal, Arsenal need players right now, and that includes a striker. If Isak's not starting, my team is cooked. I have Watkins, Isak, and Pedro. I'm not sure where this is coming from, so I'd take it with a pinch of salt. I'm benching Isak for Wood. Okay, so I'm not sure where this is coming from. I'd be very careful. So just because someone said on the chat, yeah, definitely don't make a decision based on that sort of thing, because we've had that before with Cunha, where people got trolled and he ended up starting. Arnav says, considering Liverpool struggled against Forest, you sure you don't want to captain Palmer? Well, look, if Isak is indeed injured and I've got a late change of heart, yeah, Palmer's next in line for the captaincy. There's no doubt about it. It's just Bournemouth are also a good team and they can cause problems for Chelsea. They probably should have gotten a draw or a win earlier this season at the Vitality Stadium, in Nkunku with a late winner. It's a close call. I don't think there's a clear standout this week. You could arguably say the best captain is like a Bruno Fernandes or Anthony Gordon instead, although that's certainly debatable. Mazen says, I have 2 free transfers. Is it worth Cucurella and Robinson out, Kanate and Hall in? Yes, I like the 2 transfers in, but you don't need to sell Robinson just yet. So Cucurella to Hall, fine. Keep that as it is. Then you can do Robinson to Kanate in Gameweek 23 or 24, maybe. I don't think you need to make both. I'd start Chris Wood, mate. Greg Best says, I better get going. Good luck, Dylan. Dylan, I reckon you could roll unless you find the Gordon prospect too good to pass up. Yeah, the thing is, I could have bought him in for free for Ismail Assar, and I didn't do it. I should have just bought him in a few weeks ago when I had the chance. But yeah, we'll wait and see. My current plan is to roll, but the poll is very close. It does kind of reflect my current thinking. Wei Seng says, what do we do with Arsenal defence in our hands? If you got a double or triple up, I'd probably trim it down, but I wouldn't be selling all of them. I still think Arsenal have the best defence, and Gabriel is probably the best FPL defender long term. But yeah, it's all about balance, right? And I think Arsenal's main issues right now are in front of goal. We had the same exact problems this time last year when they failed to score against West Ham at home, 25 shots, 5 big chances. Also Fulham drawing 1-1, although Arsenal were just terrible that day. And then Liverpool at home in the FA Cup, where Arsenal battered Liverpool and just didn't score a bloody goal. So yeah, I think Arsenal are still worth keeping defensively, but not a triple up. I've never been on board with that. I think that's way too much. Kaio says start 1, Fabianski sells, and Virgil Castagna. Slight press for Fabianski, and I'd probably go for Virgil van Dijk here. If it was Robinson, that's maybe a bit different, but with Castagna, I'd go for Van Dijk. Start Kirkes or Colwill, I'd go for Kirkes. Thank you, Prince. Please start 2 of Chris Wood, Robinson, Hall, and Jackson. Lewis, Hall, and Jackson for me. I would start Chris Wood there, LG. I don't think João Pedro starts, which I covered. Start Wood or Rodgers. Rodgers. How many minutes do you reckon Isak plays this game week? I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what the actual news is. I mean, without like the kind of rumors I'm seeing in the live chat right now, I would have said Isak plays 70 to 80 minutes. That's what I would have said. I'm less keen on him now, that's for sure. Luis Diaz or KDB? I'd rather have Diaz because of that doubling Gameweek 24. This week, though, you might lean towards KDB. It really depends on the question. Are you talking about buying this week? Who to start? If it's who to start, I'd go for KDB, but I wouldn't be buying him in. Martin says, who should I bench from Virgil, Timber, Hall, or Robinson? From those players, I'd be tempted to bench Timber. I think with Gabriel's a little bit different, and Timber has dropped in terms of performances. He's playing way too much football for a player who just came back from an ACL injury. He's done very well for Arsenal, but yeah, with Gabriel, you've always got that set piece threat. He scored the other day against Man United, big game player. Yeah, I think from those four, it'd be Timber benched. Hi Dylan, sell Mizrahi for Hall. I wouldn't be selling Mizrahi this week. It's just I wouldn't recommend people to buy him in necessarily. Not benching Isak, but not captaining either. Yeah, look, that's one of the reasons why, since my team selection video yesterday and the Transfer Plans podcast, I have gone to Salah captain, and now maybe even Palmer takes the vice captaincy or even the armband definitively. That's something I'm considering. Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely don't wait until the last minute. Rate my team. Who do I bench and any transfers? Yeah, Alisson in goal, Gabriel, Hall, and Trent as your back three. I'd start your first four midfielders, bench Enzo for now, start Isak, Jackson, and Pedro. Yeah, I would consider Enzo Fernandez to Ahmad and then starting him over Joao Pedro. The rest is fine. Not one post about Isak not playing trolls. Yeah, of course. Like I said, I saw that and I was already very suspicious. Let me just find that person. All right, I'm not going to hurt you, as they say. See if I can find the message. But yeah, I haven't seen anything on Twitter myself, so don't bench Isak based on one comment in this live chat. I'd be very careful with that sort of thing. Yeah. Maybe he got trolled himself. Maybe he's not trolling, but yeah. Just be very careful with that sort of thing. Let's see if I can find it. Who'd you bench? Yeah, covered that, sorry. Live chat is reloaded for some reason. Would you start Wood or Enzo? Chris Wood. Keep Son or sell him for Gordon? Sell him. Start Rodgers or Gibbs-White? Rodgers, Munoz, Wood or Pedro, who to start? Munoz. Hi Dylan, transfer Strand Larsen to Raul and then bench Wood. Yeah, looks fine to me. I'd probably do that. Bruno at home to Southampton is tempting to captain. Yeah, but it is Man United, so I'd be very careful about that. Would you start Gabriel or Mizrahi? Close one. I'd probably go for Mizrahi this week. Gabriel has a higher ceiling though. At the moment, we're saying no. It would be criminal, in my opinion, for Arsenal not to sign anyone. It really would. They needed two attackers before the injuries. Now with Sterling's back now. I forgot that. Saka, Nwaneri, Jesus. With all of them injured, yeah, Arsenal arguably need three attackers at the moment. Best captain and why? Who knows at this point, mate? It's Salah, Isak, and Palmer. They're the top three this week. I just think Salah, generally speaking, is the best option. I'm less tempted by him. I think there's a bigger opportunity to go against him this week with the opposition. But he is averaging 11 points per game. Let's not forget that. 11 game weeks in a row with a return. I'll be honest, whether it's Salah, Isak or Palmer, I don't mind getting points or jinxing them. Thank you very much, Stacks. Much appreciated. Peter says start Enzo or Wood. Chris Wood. Which two of these three should I start? Munoz, Mizrahi or Gabriel? I'd possibly bench Gabriel. He did get 15 points, though, against Tottenham earlier this season. Benguino says, hi, Dylan, who would you start? Souls or Fabianski? Fabianski. And out of your defenders, I would start Munoz, Robinson, and Trent. And I'd start... I'd start Gabriel over Trent, and I'd go for Chris Wood over Joao Pedro. So basically, start Fabianski, Gabriel, Munoz, Robinson, and Chris Wood. No worries, Ayanthi. Start Robinson or Kanate, says football. Robinson. Gordon or Mateta for captain? Gordon. The thing is, I don't think Isak's missing out, by the way. I wouldn't believe those rumours. If Isak did miss out, though, I do think Gordon playing down the middle isn't something I'd be particularly fond of. or him being shifted to the winger, to the right wing position to accommodate Harvey Barnes with Jacob Murphy missing out. So that could be very important. I still think Rodgers will play a lot of minutes, but yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that will have an impact at some stage this season, but Rodgers can play in multiple positions, not just on the left. And I do think he's a better player than Marlon. Yeah, I think so too, Lager. That's why I didn't ban or anything. Start Robinson or Milenkovic? Robinson. Duran is back from suspension. It was a 3-game ban, 2 in the Prem and 1 in the FA Cup. Start Ahmad or Jackson? Probably Ahmad. Yeah, I agree. And I got Bruno Fernandes for a reason a few weeks ago, but it burned me big time. Thank you, Morecambe. As he says, smash the like button. Watkins or Konsa start? I'd just go for Watkins in case he does get the nod, but I personally think Duran will start and Watkins will play against Arsenal instead. Dylan, imagine you're playing a League of Fantasy in the CR7 Messi era. Quite boring, huh? I mean, it depends. I mean, maybe it's boring. The thing is, though, without one of those players, maybe you build a really balanced team and you go for Falcao or something like that. It just depends. Saka's not going to be back for a while, so we can figure about that. March or April, probably. Maybe even later. I have heard some reports indicate 4 to 6 months. Bruno or Mbeumo instead of Foden? They're both better than Foden, long term. But if I'm buying one this week, it's going to be Bruno. Elanga to Savio. Short term, that could work. I'm just not a huge fan of Savio to buy right now. I think it would be points chasing. Best Jesus replacements, as covered earlier, you're looking at Mateta, Gakpo, Raul Jimenez. It just depends who you have already. Hi Dylan, will Welbeck start? Yeah, I think he does actually, especially if João Pedro's on the bench. Would do Foden to Gordon for free? Yeah. Vardy to Chris Wood, Raul Jimenez this week or roll? Question. If I'm buying one this week, it's Raul Jimenez, but I do think Chris Wood long-term is the better asset, and if you're making this transfer in Gameweek 22, I think Chris Wood is just a standout there against Southampton. Yeah, so I did cover this question earlier, mate. I don't think he plays 90 minutes like I said earlier, but with Dalot's suspension, it's just not a clear-cut one. I'd probably say yes, I think Mazraoui starts. It all depends on his recovery, and I don't know enough about that. So yeah, we are getting some repeats here. Transfer Mbeumo to Gordon. No. I'd suggest keeping Mbeumo if you can. Thank you, Jellyfish. Besides Gordon for another captaincy, do you think there would be more captaincy options? Yeah, Bruno Fernandes would be even higher than Gordon this week. There's plenty of actually. Erling Haaland as well. Buy Ahmad, Rodgers or Murphy? Rodgers is my favourite long-term. I don't think there's... yeah, in terms of the live chat and saying that Isak's out, forget about that. I don't think there's any substance to it. But I did cover the injury updates by Eddie Howe earlier today. He talked about a group of players, not just Isak, and he didn't give much away, as usual. I'm not a big fan of Henderson regardless. Is he a must-sell? No, I don't think he's a must-sell. But I probably would, you know, if you don't have Jordan Pickford, for example, or you've got a lack of Everton coverage for the double, that could be a sensible move. Henderson to Pickford works very well. But yeah, he was ill. I mean, he could recover by this stage. So I personally think Henderson will play. It's not a terrible opportunity, though, to make a move there. Raya or Sanchez? Raya. Start one of Gibbs, White, Gabriel, João Pedro. Gabriel. Start Martinelli or Rodgers? Rodgers. Jesus, Murphy, Rodgers to Raul, Ahmad and Gordon. Yeah, good transfers overall. No issues with them. I'd probably go for Gabriel here, but it's close. Verbruggen or Fabianski? Verbruggen. Welcome, Beardy. Start Wood or João Pedro? Chris Wood. Osman versus Goycris. Who do you prefer and why? Any will do, to be fair. But probably Goycris. I just don't see any of them at Arsenal anyway. They'll probably go to a different club anyway. I think like Goycris, for example, Man United is more likely. Yeah, so probably just not worth talking about them. Welcome, John G. Good to see you. Hope you are well. Just tuned in. Any news on Isak? Not really, mate. We got like a fake comment or a comment by someone who was misled on Twitter or something like that. I don't think we've got any updates on Isak, and we probably won't until the deadline has passed. Palmer or Mbeumo for captain? Palmer. Malacia could start over him. Yeah, that's true. Malacia could start on the left and then Diallo as the right wing back. That's possible. It's difficult to say. It's an awkward one for those with Mizraoui, but I certainly wouldn't buy him this week. Am I on a -4 so I can bench Joao Pedro or not? Not entirely sure about that. I mean, I don't think Joao Pedro starts, but even if Diallo does, he might not play in his favoured position. Not so sure. Who am I going to captain? It's up in the air. It's up in the air. Probably Salah or Isak for me. Palmer's kind of the outside shout. Why not Cucurella over Colwill? I don't think that's the question, really. They're both terrible FPL assets. It's why didn't I go for Lewis Hall, Munoz? They're all better picks, although Munoz hasn't been great. I think he's got a higher ceiling and better fixtures than Colwill. But yeah, I don't think any of them are good. Start Semenyo or Pedro? Semenyo just because I don't think JP starts. Start Cunha or Martinelli? Cunha. Best captain? I've kind of gone for Salah. Yeah, I covered that, Harry. The Footy Ace puts his team. Should I make any moves? If so, which transfers? So yeah, I've seen Greaves in a lot of teams. He's someone I would try to upgrade if possible. That could be to Mikalenko. The rest of your defensive line is absolutely solid. You do have Raya in goal, and that could turn into Pickford fairly soon if you wish, or Sells. Chiwomi, I know you're going to start 5 midfielders or 4 defenders and then Isak and Jackson up front every game. That's fine. But if you want a bit more squad depth for another option, upgrading Chiwomi could work fairly well. But in your case, it's really just fine-tuning a few things here and there. Rodgers, Salah, Gordon, Palmer is a very solid midfield. I wouldn't change any of those. Isak and Jackson, solid. Jackson is maybe sellable, so to speak, and if you need a cash cow, maybe going from Jackson to Gakpo or Mateta to then upgrade Chiwomi or upgrade, let's say, Greaves, that could work really well for you. But ultimately, Greaves, Chiwomi, and possibly Raya will be the sells for you in the coming weeks. Best of luck, Varnit. Start Raya or Fabianski? Still Raya for me, unfortunately. Bench Mbeumo or Wood? I would bench Chris Wood. Bench 2 of Aina, Kirkes, Chris Wood and Cunha, says Afnan. I would bench Aina and possibly Chris Wood. Sam says current defense, Trent, Robinson, Timber, bench Lewis and Aitnuri, 1 free transfer, Munoz in for Aitnuri and start him with a Timber. I'd probably do it, yeah. Cunha's not suspended anymore, mate. It was only a 2-game ban, somehow. Yeah, but yeah, he's back now from suspension. Problem is he injured? Because he had that issue a few weeks ago when he was subbed off against Spurs. He should be fine, in my opinion. Thank you, Napstars, for being a member for 4 months, and also with the 5 memberships. I do appreciate it. Palmer or Mbeumo for captain? It would be Palmer for me. I like Mbeumo, and I think he's a decent option against City, but captaincy-wise, I think Palmer is still a level above this week. Enzo, Robinson, Rodgers, start 1. Rodgers. Start 2 of Robinson, Trent, Wood, Cucurella. Robinson and Trent. Jackson or Jimenez instead of Jesus? Jimenez right now. Buy Nana for Raya and Gordon for Semenyo, yes or no? I still think Raya's better than Onana. Gordon for Semenyo, great. But I wouldn't... If you want a goalkeeper to fund the Gordon move, get Pickford. Even Sells, I wouldn't go for Onana right now. Kenny Silvera says, hey Dylan, Luis Diaz to Rodgers sounds good. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. And if you want to leave that spot open for Arno's slot, that's absolutely fine. This week, Bruno Fernandes is better, but long-term, Mbeumo is the more consistent, better value pick, in my opinion. So yeah, it's not nailed on, Aranya. I've talked about this all week. It's 50-50 for me, but Salah's averaging 11 points per game. He's got over double the number of points of Isak. Now, both of these players blanked in the reverse fixture, but Isak picked up an injury against Wolves, was subbed off at half-time with a face injury. I personally think Liverpool will get the win against Forest, and they'll score 2 or 3 goals, and Liverpool, Salah's going to be likely involved. So it's a close one, very close one. I could go back to Isak, but ultimately, I don't mind jinxing Salah myself. Who's the most nailed Man United defender? Well, it's normally Dalot, but he's suspended here, right? So at the moment, you're probably looking at De Ligt. Diaz or Wood? Diaz this week. Best 4-point family midfield placeholder. Bergvall at the moment might be it. There could be someone escaping my mind. It would have been Nwaneri, but unfortunately he's injured. Would you sell Dean this week, and who to? Yeah, Munoz is a good option. If you don't have Lewis Hall, though, I'd probably suggest him. Start Gibbs White or Joao Pedro. Joao Pedro. Who'd you like to sign FSU? Isak, Nico Williams, Zubamendi, who's apparently going to be signed anyway in the summer. I mean, dream signing would be Musiala, but that's not happening, is it? But Arsenal need to be ambitious, need to sign top quality players. It's not like Musiala would take place of Odegaard. Start both of them, have an attacking lineup. But yeah, it's all just, it's dreams we're talking about. Do you like Semenyo to Eze? Yes. Start Wood and Pedro on Y. Chris Wood, I don't think Joao Pedro starts. Hi Dylan, would you have Aina or Hall this week? Lewis Hall. Hi Dylan, Semenyo to Diallo for free. Yeah. He could play wing back though. Just came off the back of a minor injury, Amad Diallo, so just keep that in mind. Play one of Greaves, Mikolenko or Milenkovic. Mikolenko. I would start Trent there, Ali. Jackson to Watkins. I would not be buying Watkins. I don't think he starts this week, actually. And even if he does he also start against Arsenal? I think he gets benched in one of these two. I'd rather keep Jackson in this case. Honestly, just run out of patience with Jackson. I get that, but you've also got Gakpo, Mateta, Jimenez, Chris Wood. I'd probably roll for now and reassess. I think Jackson will probably blank this week, to be fair, against Bournemouth, but I think he'll do well against West Ham and Wolves very soon. From those two options, I'd go for Palmer as captain. So I talked about this earlier. The way I'd rank the captains this week is Salah first, with an asterisk, because that's really close. Isak second, Palmer third, Bruno fourth, and Haaland fifth. Yeah, fair enough, Jazabi. I mean, in my case, I'm happy I used it. I got a good return from it. But if Salah gets 20, 30 points, then maybe I'll feel differently. Start Rodgers or Robinson. Rodgers. Bench one in Mbeumo, Raul, and Wood. I'd bench Chris Wood. Yeah, Forest is solid defensively, but Salah could get a goal and an assist if they score 2 and he gets a massive return. You know, he's blanked twice this season, and in terms of double-digit hauls, it's like almost a given in most games. But yeah, look, honestly, it's a close call this week. I think all 3 of them are great choices. I might just flip a coin or do that, what was it, choose a name wheel thing? Yep, Dalot is suspended because of the FA Cup red card against Arsenal, yep. Perez says start 3 of Gabriel, Robinson, Hall, Aina, and Virgil. Gabriel, Robinson, and Hall. Gordon to Mbeumo or Rodgers. What? Surely you're not selling Gordon. I'm guessing it's the other way around. I think both Rodgers and Mbeumo are worth holding on to long term, and Rodgers structurally makes a lot of sense, but if you can find a way to fund Mbeumo and Gordon, that would be my suggestion. Play Dunk versus Ipswich or Castagna versus West Ham. Dunk. Forest defence so good this season. I think it'll be hard to break up. I think Liverpool win with low scoring. Yeah, and either way, I wouldn't mind if Salah blanks and Liverpool drop points, but that's not happening, is it? Hi, Dylan, Semenyo to Diallo for free. Like I mentioned earlier, yes. Would you not wait until Gameweek 26 before bringing Cunha back in? Yeah, I'm less keen on buying Cunha now than I was over a week ago. I still like Cunha, but you've got a lot of options in that forward line with that double in 24 and Wolves' poor fixtures. I think it's probably best to wait at the moment. Start Timber or Robinson? Robinson. Start Dean or Colwill? Both terrible, but probably Luka Dean. Start Sarr or Chris Wood? Probably Ismail Sarr this week, but he's not a great FPL asset. Start Enzo or Chris Wood, Aina? I'd start Chris Wood from those lot. Pedro says, hi Dylan, I have Van Heck, should I transfer out to Hall? Want to take out Semenyo to Sarr, 2 free transfers. Yep, I'd go to Lewis Hall. Rank Bruno, Salah, Palmer, Isak as captain. I just did that, mate. Basically, Salah and Isak will be top 2 for me. Palmer 3rd, Bruno 4th. Evening, Dylan, bless up. I have Ahmad, Odegaard to Bruno instead of Gordon, or Mbeumo. Is that good? Yeah, Odegaard to Bruno is fine, but I do prefer Gordon personally. For this week, I understand the temptation to go for Bruno. He played very well against Liverpool. Also against Arsenal, he scored a great goal. But I think Gordon and Mbeumo are better long-term. I would start Rodgers, mate. Probably the last of the Rodgers-Chris Wood questions, because that's been asked to death. Start Flecken or Sells? Sells for me. Start Luis Diaz or Wood? Diaz this week. I don't really fancy Forest too much. Hall in for Kirkes for free or roll and start Mikalenko or Aina. I'd start Mikalenko over Aina. I like Kirkes, but Lewis Hall's an upgrade. Better fixtures as well. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I think Isak plays. Heidel and Semenyo to Bruno or roll. I'd make the transfer. Leonardo says play Castagna, Colwill or Howson. The chill guy. Close one. Probably Castagna. If it was Kirkes, maybe I feel a little bit differently, but Howson has a high ceiling, of course. Good from set pieces. But I do think Chelsea score. Sell Jesus to Mateta, Raul or Wood. If I'm buying one now, it's probably going to be Mateta, but it's all team dependent. If you got Eze or Sarr already, not a big fan of doubling or tripling up with Munoz on Crystal Palace. I'd start Rodgers over Joao Pedro. Bruno or Mbeumo. Bruno this week. Likewise, Alex, thank you very much. Thoughts on Højlund? Never. Start Wood or Cunha? Probably Cunha. And at the moment, I'm going for Salah captain. Sell Matoma or Jackson? I would sell Matoma. Start Gibbs White, Joao Pedro or Rodgers? Rodgers. I want to bench JP. Start Timber or Enzo? I'd rather start Timber. Not a big fan of Enzo. At the moment, Ashwin, I'm not making any transfers, but the poll that I put out sums up my final and definitive transfer plans. It's between those options, really, for me. So it's going to be a -4 hit to buy Gordon Gakpo. If not, I buy Pickford for Raya. The alternative is just the roll. Evening as well, deal. Is the concern around JP worth a bench? I personally don't think he starts. Based on the quotes, reading between the lines, and Joao Pedro's injury record over the years, that's my take on it. Yeah, Rodgers and Veltman is not too shabby, to be fair. At least Rodgers isn't. I think Veltman's kind of hit or miss. Hi, Dylan. Would you sell Diaz for Ahmad? No. Hey, Dylan, start Munoz or Robinson? Munoz. Yeah, good luck, Toby. You might need it, but even as a wing-back, he could do fairly well. I'm doing well, El Parcero. Hopefully you are too. Enzo Timber out for Gordon Munoz. -4. Yeah, why not? I think that's pretty decent. Yes, Mohit, I did mention this earlier, and also Salah blanked against Forest, but you can't really judge Isak on 45 minutes where he picked up a face injury and was subbed off at half-time. And that's why I also added with the context when analysing these two options. I like looking at reverse fixtures and how these players did, but there's a lot more to it. There's a player's form, the fixtures, and how that changes over the course of the season. You know, playing Arsenal now is much more appealing than it would have been back in September, for example. So, yeah, I still think Isak is a great option. Murphy or Iwobi? Murphy. Bench 2, Ahmad Gabriel, Wissa, Wood, Aina. Probably Aina and Wood. I would start Chris Wood, Raja. It's just bleak, isn't it? I mean, starting Sterling as a winger, or I don't know what Arsenal can really do at this point. There's not really too much choice. Do I think he starts? I mean, they could also do Havertz up top, Martinelli and Trossard, with Martinelli on the right. I think that's what Arsenal will go for, but it's just not good enough. Stuck on captain, surprisingly not between Isak or Palmer, but more between Salah and Ahmad. Yeah, I get that. It's just Salah's been too good this season, and unless we see otherwise, you know, like a really bad performance, I think it's absolutely fine to stick with him. He didn't play well against Man United or Spurs, in my opinion, in the last 2 games, but he's still always threatening. Who to bench between Gordon, Mbeumo, Ahmad, Rao, and Jackson, says Omabek. Yeah, from those options, I'm probably going to suggest benching, I think, Raul Jimenez here. Raul Jimenez. You know what? I'm going to say Jackson. I did say earlier, I think Jackson blanks. I think the last 2 are the most benchable of the lot. I'm going to say Jackson. Evanilson and Jackson to Jimenez and Wood for free, says Alfred. Yeah, that's fine. Good transfers overall. I think Jackson will do well fairly soon against Wolves and West Ham, but you can't have them all, can you? Play Wood or Joao Pedro? Yeah, we'll cover that to death. Chris Wood. Play Robinson or Jimenez? Jimenez. Ahmad, Rogers, Wood, Gordon, Isak, Jackson, bench 1. Start Gabriel Dean. I'd start Gabriel and reluctantly I'd bench Chris Wood. Start 1, Mazraoui, Aina, Gabriel. I'd just go for Gabriel. Especially, like you pointed out, the chance of Malacia playing left wing back and then Diallo right wing back, I'd probably just avoid it. Now, if Mazraoui does start and he plays 60 plus minutes, you probably get 6 points, you know, as a base score. Gabriel did get 15 points earlier this season, and he's got that high ceiling. He's done it multiple times against big teams. It's a lot of evidence, but yeah, probably just Gabriel. Start Alisson or Fabianski. Alisson. From those players, I'd captain Salah. Palmer would be second. Start Wood or Robinson. This is closer, but I'm probably going to go for Chris Wood. I think Murphy plays. Watkins or Gakpo? Gakpo. I don't think Watkins starts. I mean, Sterling had some good moments. He had a 5-minute spell where he won. Well, he was involved in the winning of the penalty, which shouldn't have been awarded. It's just a terrible signing. If you look at Arsenal's summer window, it's just one of the worst windows I've ever seen. Start 2, Cunha, Pedro, or Elanga. I would start Cunha and Elanga. I'd go for sure Pedro hit over Elanga, but I don't think he starts. If Salah blanks versus Forest, can we ascertain he's looking at a dip in form? Possibly, because it would be 3 games in a row, as you mentioned, but I don't think Salah needs to play well to get big returns. He's done it on a few occasions this season, like Arsenal at the Emirates. Salah says start Rogers or Joao Pedro. Rogers. Who to start, Verbruggen or Fabianski? Verbruggen. Chris Wood or Jackson? Jackson this week. Best differential captain? Bruno Fernandes. Sarr or Rogers to start? It's a close one. Slight preference for Ismaila Sarr this week, but not a big fan of him. I'm currently benching Semenyo, mate, so that's the answer to your question. I'll show you my FPL challenge team soon, probably after the deadline though, because FPL is the big focus here. Start Raul or Wood? Raul Jimenez. Yeah, Wuss is fine this week. I'm not a big fan of him against Liverpool, but he always gets chances. He missed a lot of them against Southampton recently. Sells or Sarr with Salah as captain? I'd probably go for Sarr anyway. I mean, it's a close one. Sells is a much better goalkeeper and asset, but also a more difficult game. Very close call. Buy Jackson or Cunha or Wood? If I'm buying one now, it's going to be Chris Wood. Not the best fixture this week, but you've got Southampton next week and okay fixtures afterwards, and Forest are the best team of the lot at the moment compared to Chelsea and Wolves. Nope, Jonathan is a no for me. I covered this in my transfer tips video. He was a skip. I would not be going for Martinelli. Martinelli to Gordon or Semenyo to Sarr or Roll? I'd buy Gordon. Declan says Jackson and Raya to Wood and Pickford Gameweek 22. Yeah, looks good to me. I like those moves. I don't see Pickford as a massive upgrade on Raya right now, but the double probably sways me towards the Everton goalkeeper. I'd start Howson over Van den Berg. Yeah, Sterling does like to basically run at brick walls. Now, don't get me wrong, compared to the other attackers, he offered a lot more. He actually got past his, opposing fullback quite a few times, but yeah, after a while, he just basically ran into a dead end time after time again. Didn't pass when he should have, but yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. I blame the club for signing him. You know, Neto is the worst example. I mean, Arsenal signed a goalkeeper to play in the cups. In the FA Cup, he doesn't even play, and in the Carabao Cup, he's cup tied. It's ridiculous, mate. Henry says start three of Gabriel, Robinson, Hall, Trent, and Munoz. Gabriel, Hall, and Munoz. That's a really good bench, though. I'd try to start four if you can. I don't like benching two of them. So yeah, let's catch up to the recent ones. Yeah, I think Odegaard will play, but whether he plays or not much of a difference. He's probably going to blank. I wouldn't really invest in him. Nope, no score predictions yet. Maybe I'll do it now. Might as well. It can also give you an insight into my thinking with some of these games, the captaincy, benching dilemmas, etc. And yeah, if we do hit our super chat goal of 5, we will continue this stream for even longer. And feel free to rewind at any stage to see the other screens I showed you, like the polls I put out on my channel, predicted points, FDR, etc. Brentford versus Man City, 2-1 Man City. Chelsea, Bournemouth. I'm going to go for, I think Chelsea narrowly win it. 2-1 Chelsea. West Ham, Fulham, 1-1 draw. Forest, Liverpool. Yeah, I think Liverpool get the win. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Liverpool win. Everton, Aston Villa. Oof, that's a difficult game to call. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Leicester versus Crystal Palace. 2-1 Crystal Palace. Newcastle 3, Wolves 1. Yeah, 3-1. Now, Newcastle 2, Wolves 0. Arsenal Spurs, 3-1 Arsenal, but not if they finish the way they have recently. Ipswich Town Brighton, 1-1. And Man United Southampton, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Man United win. I was thinking 3-1, but I'll stick with 2-0. Yeah, that's those are my predictions there. Yeah, probably something like that. I mean, the Arsenal 3-1, I'm kind of reconsidering, but I do think they get the job done, and they have to. I mean, sorry, you can't be losing to them lot or dropping points. But yeah, those are my bloody predictions. Let's get that out of the way, and let's go back to this screen. Is that? Oh, okay, I see. Give me a second. Just noticed. That's better. All right, so we only have a few minutes left. Be sure to lock in your teams if you haven't done so already. Start Havertz or Joao Pedro. Havertz reluctantly. There is a chance Jota plays, to be fair, yeah, against Forest. I personally think, though, the first choice front line is Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. So I'd lean towards that for now. I'm not Arteta out, and I never like this, are you in or out, you know, shake it all about. I don't like that sort of thing. It happened with Wenger as well. I just think Arteta shouldn't be immune to criticism, though. That's the way I look at it. He's made a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, he's done a great job to transform Arsenal. Let's not forget how poor Arsenal were. And a lot of the money spent has been in terms of clearing out the deadwood, you know, paying off their contracts and then getting some good players in, but not enough investment in the forward line. Start Fabianski or Sels. As covered earlier, slight preference for Fabianski. I would just play Cole instead of Veltman. That's fair. I think both of them are terrible, though, so let's see what happens. Hi, Dylan. Should I transfer out Trent to fund Gordon? Nope. If you can, I'd recommend keeping Trent. Ryan says, hi, bud. Start 2, Lewis, Rogers, Pedro, Jackson. Thanks. I would start Jackson and Rogers. I would start Mateta this week, undoubtedly. Diaz for Gordon. Yes, just bear in mind that Diaz doubles in Gameweek 24. So if you're happy to part ways, I'd pull the trigger. I think Gordon is a better player and asset. But having said that, the good thing about making this sort of move as well is that you can save up a slot for Arne Slot later in Gameweek 24 or 25, potentially. Start Joao Pedro or Solanke. Difficult one. I mean, I don't think Joao Pedro starts. I'm probably going to say... I'm going to say Joao Pedro, but who knows at this point. Wood or Rodgers? Rodgers. Should I get Foden? No, I would not be buying him. I'd start Hall over Gabriel this week. I disagree, easy 9-9. I think once Vicario is back and fully available, I think he starts. Start Konate or Lewis Hall or Saliba? Lewis Hall. And I'd personally go for Saliba. If it was Trent, then yeah, Trent over Saliba. It's just, I think there's a big difference between Trent and Konate and also Gabriel and Saliba. It might not seem like it, but I do think it adds up. I would start Diaz over Havertz, although Tottenham is a better opposition for an attacker compared to Nottingham Forest. Isak for me as captain, but Fernandes is quite close, so I think he's up there this week. Best Semenyo replacement for 6 million, Rodgers. Best defender long term, Gabriel. Who to bench? Trent, Gabriel, Hall, Munoz. This week it might have to be Gabriel from these four, but I'd start Lewis Hall for sure. And yeah, I'd probably bench Gabriel here. Semenyo, Matuma, Joao Pedro start two. I would go for the first two, yeah. Would you start Mazraoui or Robinson over either Gabriel, Trent and Hall? It's a good question. I'd probably stick with what you have. Gordon or Murphy or Mbeumo long term? Mbeumo. Gvardiol, Rodgers, Robinson and Wood start any two. Rodgers and Chris Wood. Would you start Rodgers, Raul or Joao Pedro if you had to start two of them? I'd basically bench Joao Pedro. Alvin says, should I start Trent Robinson or Aina? Trent. And yeah, there's a lot of Joao Pedro questions this week. There is a chance he starts, so this is just my opinion. That's the way I look at it. So, you know, ultimately you have to back your gut. If you think Joao Pedro is going to start, in a lot of these scenarios, I'd actually start him, you know, in your case. But I personally don't think he does, based on the comments by Ursula. No Joao Pedro news, really. I read out the full list of quotes by Ursula and explained why I don't think he's going to start. But yeah, it's subjective. I think if Arteta took some responsibility for his team's lackluster performances, then there will be a lot less anger and heat. Yeah, I do think he was, when he first joined Arsenal, he was very good in the press conferences in terms of taking accountability and also saying that things aren't acceptable when there was a poor performance. I think recently he has shielded the players and the board a lot more, which has led to more anger directed towards him. Because you could argue, I'm not saying this is the case, you could argue that he set up in such a way, you know, that should have gotten the wins against Newcastle and Man United quite comfortably, may I add, but it wasn't the case. But then you also look at him for the lack of investment in forwards. So I do think it's a double-edged sword and he deserves some criticism. Would you start Saliba or Colwill? Saliba, I couldn't tell you, mate. He was ill anyway. He could be back for Gameweek 21, but it's up in the air. It's literally going to be a coin toss. Without the information, it's impossible for me to say. I personally think he will start, but I could be wrong. Start Semenyo or Cunha. Slight preference for Cunha. Trent to Konate and Sarr to Gordon or Roll. I see what you're doing, and it's pretty good. I'd just reconsider another way of buying Gordon and keeping Trent if you can. But if that's your only way, I'd pull the trigger. This week, Varnett, I'd go for Raul Jimenez. Anoy says start Elanga or Robinson. Robinson. From those players, mate, I would start Wood and Gakpo. Munoz or Hall in. Very stuck final decision. Lewis Hall. Bench one. I thank you for moderating, Twister Parky. I bench Kirkes and Colwill. Don't think any clean sheets. I agree. Start Mikalenko or Greaves. Mikalenko. Sydney puts his team. What would you recommend? 2 free transfers. Enzo and Greaves would be the kind of priorities to sell. And over the coming weeks, I would suggest buying Pickford and or Mikalenko. You might even, if you are planning to use the assistant manager chip on Arne Slot, you might want to sell Diaz. But that is certainly up for debate. But Enzo, Greaves should be the 2 priority sells. And then I'd be looking at Raya potentially. I'd start Semenyo simply because I don't think Joao Pedro starts. Otherwise, I would have been very happy to have said, you know what, JP's better than Semenyo, because I think that is the case in a lot of weeks. Paolo says start Enzo or Chris Wood. I would start Chris Wood this week. So yeah, the chat is bugging out a little bit. And yeah, look, there was another chat earlier by Y2K Universe. So hopefully you're still here. Start Semenyo or Cunha. I'd go for Cunha. Now, Newcastle are in brilliant form, so he's got the tougher fixture of the two. But I think Cunha's fixture proof. He can score against any given opponent. He went to the Emirates last year, scored, got a hat-trick at Stamford Bridge last season too. So yeah, Cunha for me. Semenyo could play out of position in this match, but that's not necessarily a great thing here. I think also, with no Van Alsten, that's a big blow for Bournemouth. Even the backup striker in Unal with an ACL injury, I just think Bournemouth could struggle a little bit more offensively. And with all their problems, I think they've got up to 10 absentees. That's going to be felt for me. So I'm not too keen on Semenyo. He'll probably do well on my bench, but fuck him. Joao Pedro, Isak or Wood start two. I would bench Joao Pedro, unfortunately. Jack says, happy for the EPL to be back. Palmer for captain this week. So many injuries. Yeah, fair enough. There's a lot of people talking about Cole Palmer. And yeah, enjoy yourself. And yeah, the different time zone. Wood or Castagna? All right, relax, mate. I'd go for Chris Wood. Not a big fan of either this week. Salah captain tonight, playing same time as Cold. Yeah, like I said before, I'll be honest with Salah, I don't mind jinxing him in general. As long as I still get a green arrow elsewhere, that's fine. But I honestly have no qualms about Salah doing poorly. Tough call, Chris Wood or Pedro? Could Pedro do more in 20 minutes than Chris Wood in 75? Yes, he could, to be fair. That's a good point. But it's not a guarantee. Like D. Raven asks, is he going to come off the bench? It could happen, but like Hustler said, if there's any risk of an injury, they're not going to do anything stupid. Semenyo to Ahmad, I'd probably go for it. Just bear in mind he might play as a wing-back, and he just came off the back of a small injury. Start Lewis or Robinson? Robinson for me. Julian says, hey Dylan, how long after this week will you give Jackson? It's all team dependent really in terms of what my other moves are. If I decide to go for Gordon and I decide my best way of buying Gordon is to sell Jackson, I'll pull the trigger and sell him next week. But I would like to keep Jackson for some of these fixtures coming up, like Wolves and West Ham. Out of those players, mate, I would bench Chris Wood. The thing is, I'm not a big fan of Iwobi, so even he's benchable, to be fair. But Rodgers and Robertson should definitely start for me. Are you going to transfer Jackson for Gakpo? Not, well, obviously the deadline's passed now anyway, but not now. Maybe in Gameweek 23 or 24. Wood or Castagna play? Covered that. Slot is 1.5 million, very expensive for this type of chip. Well, you say that, I get what you're saying, but it is the most powerful chip now, it looks like, even over the wildcard. So a 0.7 million difference more for Arne Slot compared to Amrim, when Liverpool have double the points of Man United. They're a much better team. Yeah, I mean, the point of these like kind of punts, you know, if you go for Graham Potter or David Moyes or Amrim, the upside is really there. Postecoglou's another one. But the inconsistency is also a big problem. That's why they're priced even cheaper. I don't know, maybe I'm planning to go a bit too safe, but because I've already used my triple captaincy earlier this season, I think there's a great opportunity to just go for Arne Slot, and that's my way of covering Liverpool with their triple up. So maybe go for Salah, Arne Slot, and then I decide how to triple up, whether it's Trent at the back, Konate, or I go for Gakpo. Ahmad captain, good luck Hamza. Let's see how it goes. To here, bench two. I would have started Timber. That's my personal take on it. Isak captain for me. Good luck, Dylan. Yep, good luck as well, City. I was looking at Isak for most of this week, but let's just see how Salah goes. Yeah, look, I know, might have seen like a twat response, but just being honest. I just switched captain from Salah to Palmer. Yeah, I was considering it, but it is what it is. Borussia Dortmund losing to Holstein Kiel. Wasn't even aware. I do have the scores as well on my laptop, but haven't checked it recently. Yeah, I think Mbeumo can score, definitely. We'll come back to your comment, I guess, in the reaction stream, if there is one. I'll keep you posted about that, but definitely keep your eyes peeled for the videos. The transfer tips, best wildcard team, and my team selection. The plan is to make those videos over the coming days. And yeah, the deadline stream for next week will almost certainly be on the channel. I haven't missed the deadline in many years, actually. UCL Fantasy is also returning to the channel, so keep your eyes peeled. We are locked indeed. Like the video, lads and lasses, if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel and check all the links in the description below. We'll do like a recap of my predictions since we typically do that. I don't know if there's a glitch, by the way, in the super chat goal, or maybe it's because of the timing, because I put 2 hours. That's why. But I did think we hit 5. We did get 5 super chats today, but yeah, I'll go on for a little bit longer, like I said. So let's go to yeah. So Dortmund losing 2-0 apparently. Interesting. Let's go to this. So Brentford versus Man City. As I mentioned earlier, I'll stick with my 2-1 Man City win, but it could be higher scoring than that. I would not be surprised if we see a 3-2, 4-2, either way. Chelsea Bournemouth, I'm going to go for 2-1 Chelsea. West Ham versus Fulham, 1-1. Liverpool 2-1 win. Everton Aston Villa, 1-1. Leicester Palace, 2-1 Palace. I'm going to change this to 2-2. Yeah, 2-2 draw. Newcastle versus Wolves. I'm going for a 2-0 Newcastle win. Arsenal Spurs, I said 3-1 earlier, but I am considering changing it maybe to a lower scoring Arsenal win. It's just difficult to see them scoring that many goals, despite the fact that Spurs can be there for the taking defensively. And I think 3-1 is a kind of typical scoreline in this fixture at the Emirates. There tends to be a lot of goals. I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal. Ipswich 1, Brighton 1. And then Man United 2, Southampton 0. I was thinking about 3-1, maybe 3-0, but you just don't know what you're going to get from Man United. Yeah, 2-0 Man United, I think. And let's go to FPL Challenge. I have been asked about that as well a few times. So yeah, let's make some changes. I showed it just once earlier, and I'm not too happy with this. So let's bring in Onana and target that fixture. I'll stick with this formation. 2 midfielders and 1 attacker. Let's see. I think Lewis Hall in the back line could be even better. Salah. No Palmer, though. Yeah, no Palmer. Not a big fan of that. Since I've got Salah captain already in FPL, is that even logic to apply an FPL challenge? Probably not. But yeah, I might just go for Palmer here and Fernandes and see how that goes. And captain Palmer and see how that ends up going. So that's my updated team. So Isak up front. If I actually remember to make changes and let's say somebody is missing from the starting 11, then I'll try to make those transfers accordingly. And up front, Mateta will be on radar. Not necessarily Cody Gakpo. I think he's more of an FPL transfer for the long term, the double Gameweek in 24. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with this. I've gone for a Nana or a United defender so many times this season in this game in FPL Challenge, and it's just never worked out for me. So who knows? I think Southampton are that bad that United can finally deliver on empty promises. So that's what I've gone for. Not sure why that's bloody annoying. All right. Let's go back to my FPL team. So yeah, we are locked in for Game Week 21. I've made no transfer. I'm starting Veltman. I'm starting Chris Wood. Ugh, disgusting. But I've got Salah captain. Isak as my vice. Semenyo's on my bench. What could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot could, to be fair. But yeah, with 2 free transfers next week, I should be in a better position to tackle some of my biggest weaknesses in this game. Yeah, good luck as well, Jellyfish. Paris says, can I win FPL this year? I don't know what your rank is, to be honest, but yeah, why not? Good luck, everyone. Likewise, Alex. We are locked indeed. Wissa and Mbuma double up, Game Week 23 onwards. Definitely on radar. But by that stage, I might just go for Gakpo and focus on my double Game Week 24 assets. But definitely on radar. Locked in, and good luck, Dylan. Decided to sell Jesus to Wood and not Mateta or Raul. Yeah, I think long-term, Chris Wood is a better option. And next week, that could look really good. And maybe a captaincy contender against Southampton. Captain Palmer, says Cylindra. Captain Palmer, so I can't blame myself if Salah blanks, says Alex. Another one with Palmer captain. It looks like Palmer ended up being a very popular option in the last couple of days. I think towards the beginning of the week, Isak was kind of like the template pick. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, fumbled the Salah captaincy. Palmer, please deliver the goods. I hope not. Great work, Dylan. Muchas gracias for the stream. Likewise, Odesma. Great name. Yeah, crazy stuff with Borussia Dortmund, but they are a bit of a funny team. Yeah, look, like I said, it's not that like set in stone. It's not. There's not one way of playing it, which is a good thing. I just think with Arne Slot, you are investing in kind of like something more secure and safe. Liverpool have been extraordinary this season, whilst United have been so up and down, more downs than up, should I say. So, yeah, I think with their current league position, that could really work well. But I'm not as keen on playing the assistant managership and at the very end of the season in the last 3, 4, 5 game weeks as maybe other people are. But I have mentioned it as a possibility. Thoughts on Marlon move to Villa? Lack of trust in Duran Watkins? Or one of them moves on? Well, Duran is always linked to moves away. But Marlon has mainly played as a winger for Borussia Dortmund. So the thing with Marlon, he offers depth in all those areas. He can play on the left, right, and up front. So it's a decent signing, I think, theoretically. I'm not a big fan of Marlon myself. I don't think he's like a... I don't know. He could end up being a really good signing for Villa. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he's a reliable player, especially in front of goal. I'm not sure on that. Reaction stream today, probably not, because the games will end at like 10 p.m. And what we're talking about, midnight stream. I mean, I've never done that myself. Maybe one day. But yeah, probably not. Probably not. Maybe tomorrow. But the focus will be on the videos, of course, like I mentioned earlier. I'll keep you posted either way. But yeah, with these kind of like quick turnarounds in the middle of the week, it is a bit awkward, I think, to do reaction streams. Palmer captain went for Eze instead of Sarr 2. Good luck, guys. Good luck, Jason. A lot of Palmer captainers in the chat. I don't, Petros, but fair enough. Borussia Dortmund have great fans, and they've had some top quality players over the years, but they're such a weird team. Thank you, Martin. Buena suerte para vos también. FPL challenge you can see on screen now, so let me know what you think. El Parcero with his team. I rolled my transfer. 1 move available and 2.1 in the bank. Yeah, I think that's sound. I don't know who you started, but yeah, it looks pretty good. Second chance league is my time to redeem myself in rank. Yeah, I haven't mentioned that, but that is a thing now. That's been a thing for like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. What would your bench order have been for Semenyo, Mazraoui, and Robinson? Maybe Mazraoui first, although there is a chance he doesn't start. Robinson second, Semenyo third, dare I say? Possibly something like that. Crazy how already at Gameweek 21-22. I still remember the Euros like they were yesterday. Yeah, time does fly. When you're having fun, yeah, maybe not. Vase says good luck, likewise, and also to Beardy. Insane Gamer says captaining Palmer this week. I prefer Bournemouth at home as Palmer always performs. I have checked his home record this season, and I'm not trying to like crap on your idea because you could be right, but I'm fairly sure he's blanked on 3 or 4 occasions this season at home. So just kind of to list them because it's not something I made up. So Man City first game of the season. I know circumstances were different back then, but Palmer blanked. Crystal Palace at home, he got an assist, but let's look at the other blanks he's got. Obviously a massive haul against Brighton, and then I bought him in for Forest, typical. So Arsenal at home, he also blanked. I know I'm talking about some really good teams here. Brentford at home, also blanked. He did get a bonus point, but 3 points is a blank for me. And yeah, of course, that's just 3 blanks to be fair, so fair enough. And in some of these games, like Fulham, was it Brighton and Newcastle, these are some massive returns, Aston Villa. But, I mean, it pales in comparison to Salah, for example. I do agree with you, though, that Bournemouth at home is a better fixture with their injuries compared to Nottingham Forest away. That's definitely true. You're right about that. But he has blanked 3 times this season at home against good opposition, and I think Bournemouth are still a good side with those injuries. Twisted Parker with his predictions. I was thinking about 1-0 Arsenal too. It's just, I can't remember the last Arsenal-Spurs game at the Emirates that's ended 1-0. I'd have to think back a really long time for that. But of course, it was the result in the reverse fixture. Yeah, good predictions all round. Erling to score a hat-trick tonight? Hopefully not. When can we expect the Gameweek 21 reaction stream? I couldn't tell you, mate. Maybe tomorrow. But today would be a 10 p.m., 11 p.m. start. Even for me, that'd be crazy. I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, but that has been on my watch list for a very long time. Yeah, I'm going to watch it soon. It's alarming how fast time seems to be going these days. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of mad, isn't it? When you want it to go slow, it doesn't, and then, yeah, it is what it is. Marlon is probably the Diaby replacement. Yeah, good point, and it's kind of funny how we've forgotten about Diaby like that. Thank you very much, Karam. Great streamer, Dylan. Massively underrated. Thank you very much. So many videos to do. Maybe reaction resumes next game week. Yeah, look, like, if I've got the time and also if, you know, I've got the conditions, because I have had a few issues recently with recording. Yeah, maybe I'll record a video tomorrow morning and then do a reaction stream later, like in the evening. So I'll keep you posted about that. So FPL Challenge, Martinez, Maguire, Salah, Captain, Watkins, Isak. Good squad. Watkins might not start though, so keep your eyes peeled for that. In Challenge, players who have been at their club for 5+ seasons earn double points. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Oh well. Dylan Cheshmar's squad wants in the name of No Funk or Knee Funk. Now I'm at the top 90 worldwide. I'm in your league too. Wow. Fair play, Paris. I haven't seen your squad here. But yeah, feel free to post it, but yeah, sometimes long messages can be a pain to get through. Gonna watch the City game and Frankfurt see Marmoush, most likely final game for them. Yeah, Marmoush looks like a good signing on paper for City, but let's see how it goes. Does Mikalenko keep his place? I think he does, but I was considering that actually with Mikalenko. He played as left wing back, of course, the other day with Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman as the manager. Yeah, I think he does, though. I think he does. It's not like they got many other options there. Does Salah slow down in this period? Well, typically in the last 2 years he has done. It's mainly, I'd say, February, March, so right in the run-in where Salah's performances and output dips. But I still expect him to do fairly well over the next few games, but maybe. I would not be surprised if Palmer and Isak get some massive returns and I end up regretting it FPL-wise that Salah blanks, but if, yeah, from one perspective, I would be slightly happy. El Parcero says, I started Raya, Gabriel, Munoz, Trent, Palmer, Salah, Rogers, Sarr, Ahmad, Wood, and Isak, Benchua, Pedro, Robinson, and Kirkes. Yeah, pretty good. I like that team. Not many issues there. Not a big fan of starting Chris Wood this week, but not too shabby. Yeah, at the Emirates, yeah, you're right. I think, yeah, September 2013. Wasn't that when Giroud scored? And September, it might have been on deadline day, and then Arsenal signed Ozil the day after. If I'm not mistaken, that's the circumstances there. And Wenger did that smile when asked about signing anybody. I did my bench as you said, Mezraoui, Robinson, and Semenyo in that order. Hopefully it goes well for you. If you start triple captain, would you triple captain Salah in 24? Yeah, that would have been my plan, but thankfully for me, I don't need to really overthink that. You could say with the lack of doubles this season compared to previous campaigns, it's going to be easier for me to decide which weeks to use which chip, even the AM one. Damn, AFCON is now in August. Yeah, and obviously that played a part, I think, very recently with Salah too. Second Chance League is time to redeem myself in rank. All the best with that. Lineups are out, Sister Indra. We'll go through that very soon. Is Marmoush the City signing confirmed? It's almost. It's not officially confirmed, but it will be fairly soon. Bill Skarsgård is in Nosferatu after watching now. Yes. There are some good... I've heard good things about his performance in this one, but I'll have a look and then be a judge. Yeah, native English speaker. Lived in England all my life for my sins. Marwin says I'm going with Sells, Veltman, Kanate, and Hall. Good assets in general. I think Veltman's the weak link, generally speaking, but yeah, Lewis Hall. I wish I had him this week, I'm not going to lie. Let's go through the lineups very quickly. Then we're going to call it a day. So let's get this on the road. All right, so yeah, we've got 3 games. Yeah, 3. I'm going to go for 6 lineups. Let's have a go. So, Brentford first. Although it might not be the most interesting lineup to go through, but Flecken, Roslev, Collins, Vandenberg, Lewis Potter, Norgard, Janel, Jensen, Damsgaard, Imbumo, and Wisser. No real surprises here. Of course, Rico Henry made his return in the FA Cup. He's on the bench, maybe someone to eye up at around 4.3 million. Let's take a look at Man City's lineup, if I can get that on screen fairly soon. And then we'll go to the other matches. So, Ortega starts in goal once again. Mateus Nunes, Akanji, Ake, Gvardiol, Kovacic, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Savio, Foden, and Haaland. So the likes of Grealish, Doku, Gundogan on the bench. Rico Lewis too, by the way. For those that do have Rico Lewis, maybe a bit frustrated there. So interesting stuff. Let's go to Chelsea's lineup and then go to the Bournemouth team. See if Semenyo or Otara are playing up front. Is Chelsea's lineup out? Yeah, it should be. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we have got a change in their lineup in the back line, which has been highly requested for quite some time. So Sanchez, Caicedo, Achiampong, Colwill, Cucurella, Lavia, Enzo, Madueke, Palmer, Sancho, and Jackson. I do think that Lavia return is also very crucial. It pushes Enzo further forward, and it also allows Palmer to get into those more central areas. Jackson as well could benefit from this. So yeah, Chelsea with their lineup there and a chance to end a pretty miserable streak for them in the Premier League. Let's go to Bournemouth's team. They are decimated by injuries at the moment. And yeah, I don't think we can really judge who's up front based on this thing. It's going to be one of Ouattara or Semenyo, but this is what they've gone for. Travers, Howson, Kirkes, Cook, Brooks, Christie, Ouattara, Adams, Hill, Semenyo, and Zabani. So a 3.9 million defender in Hill starts once again for the Cherries. One to definitely eye up. Looks fairly interesting to say the least. And let's go for the final lineup. So West Ham under their new manager Graham Potter, and then Fulham. So let's get their lineups on screen too. We'll talk about our thoughts as well. So here we go with West Ham. So no changes between the sticks. Fabianski is in goal, and he obviously just returned from injury. Wan-Bissaka, Mavropanos, Kilman, Emerson, Alvarez, Rodriguez, Soucek, Soler, Kudus, and Paqueta. So interesting stuff there. Areola's not even on the bench. So yeah, I'm not sure the exact reason for that, but Fabianski does get the nod over Foderingham. So let's get Fulham's lineup now to wrap things up here. Let's see if there's any changes. Does Smith Rowe come back into the lineup? Yes, he does. Smith Rowe is back for Fulham against West Ham. So Leno, Castagna, Anderson, Bassi, Robinson, Lukic, Pereira, Wilson, Smith Rowe, Iwobi, and Jimenez. So interesting stuff there. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, I mean, not too many surprises across all of the lineups we've seen here. Maybe Rico Lewis being benched and Ortega Moreno solidifying himself as the #1 goalkeeper for Manchester City. Marmush, the Alvarez replacement? Possibly. I think in terms of a deal, getting that money for Alvarez is pretty good in my opinion, but the fact City didn't replace him was negligence, which is quite rare for them. We'll love to see Duran at Arsenal. Yeah, the thing is, even if Arsenal did sign Duran, I still think they need another striker, if I'm being honest, and a winger. So, yeah, Arsenal needs maybe a lot of players, you could say. But if you look back to the summer, you could argue Arsenal just needed 2 or 3 top quality signings, and they were in a great position. Top 3 shows or movies. I think shows is a bit easier to do. So Breaking Bad, The Wire, Sopranos, maybe Attack on Titan. Like, that's my top 4. In what order? Maybe Sopranos is first. Maybe. Movies is more difficult, man. There's too many movies. I know there's a lot of shows too, but I think with films, you've got so many 9 or 10 out of 10 films. That's so difficult to judge. But some of my favorites include Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original Matrix film, Fight Club, Seven, the Godfather trilogy, particularly the first 2 films. Yeah, there's too many films to really say. I will start to buy Everton and Liverpool players in the next game week. That's fair enough. I might do something similar too. It was Giroud that scored. Ozil played first game 13 days later. Yeah, against Sunderland as well, where I think he assisted Giroud. Good times, I guess. Marwin says sells Veltman, Hall, Kanate, Palmer, Salah, Gordon, Bergvall, Isak and Haaland. Not a big fan of Bergvall. I know he's 4.5 million, but to start against Arsenal, I mean, who knows, this might age like milk, but yeah, that's the only player I kind of question. The rest looks very strong. Ozil did sign that next day as well. Yeah, I remember that. It's 11 years ago now, or 12 years ago almost. Edison in the mud, says El Parcero. Yeah, one way to put it. Yeah, Caicedo to right back, Lavia as well. Yeah, I think interesting stuff for Chelsea, but it worked for them earlier this season. Madueke isn't good for Parma captainers. He could still get a big haul though with Madueke. I mean, we saw both of them get massive returns against Wolves in Game Week 2. Nosferatu is a weird film, but interesting. Skarsgård is indeed fantastic in the lead role. Yeah, I mean, but the director, Eggers, I believe his name is, he's made some very weird films like Lighthouse, so yeah, I'd be surprised if it wasn't weird. Has Walker played his last game for City? Yeah, most likely. Pep Guardiola was quite open about it in his press conference. I think he's going to go to AC Milan, so it looks almost done and dusted. Yeah, Jesus, like I mentioned earlier, is out because of that ACL injury. Who plays number 9 for West Ham? I think Kudus could play as the false 9 there. If we go back to West Ham's team. Yeah, I mean, you could argue Paqueta's a false 9, but yeah, that's a good question. Alvarez, Rodriguez, Soucek. Yeah, I personally think it would be Kudus, and then Paqueta could play as on the left-hand side. He has done that before for Brazil, Lyon, and also West Ham. So that would be my take on it. But maybe a West Ham fan will correct me in the live chat. And if we look at their recent game against Aston Villa, so yeah, I think it'll be Kudus. That's my take on it. Paqueta on the left. Yeah, that'll be my take. Savio getting the start is a great thing for Haaland owners. Well, he links up much better with Haaland than Doku does. And the other options there, like Bernardo Silva being shifted to the right. I think Haaland will do well against Brentford, but well enough to maybe outscore Salah, Palmer and Isak? That remains to be seen. I don't get why Villa would sell Duran. Well, he was trying to push for a move in the summer and he wanted more minutes. He's been getting it this season, but I don't think Villa would necessarily sell Duran. I don't think Marlon is a direct threat to him and Watkins. He'd be more of a threat to the winger positions. He can play anywhere across that front line. I'm not sure about that, mate. Nosferatu is getting a lot of good reviews. Maybe box office-wise it won't do that great because it is an R-rated film, but I think it's doing fairly okay, if I'm not mistaken. Kudus is starting as the number 9. Yeah, fair enough. Is Harry Wilson worth it at all? I mentioned him very recently as a short-term punt, but I wouldn't be investing now. Kvaratskhelia to PSG done. Here we go. Yeah, look, he's not the biggest in terms of goal output, but Arsenal could have been in for him as a January transfer market opportunity. Kyle Walker left City. Who replaced Walker in his place? Well, just Rico Lewis, right? And maybe today we're seeing Mateus Nunes as a right back. What do you think about El Clasico? I'll be honest, I didn't watch it. I'm not really too interested in it ever since the likes of Messi left. I do think the quality has gone down, but yeah, obviously a big win for Barcelona, and they sometimes get these massive victories over Real Madrid. Madueke, even if that affects Parma, Lavia is playing. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like pros and cons, I think, to the Chelsea lineup in regards to Parma captaincy. But yeah, I would not be surprised if one of Parma or Isak heavily outscore Salah, and because I obviously went there and maybe I'm not the most reliable when it comes to captaincy. Do Enzo returns get better now that Lavia's back? I think so. I still wouldn't invest in him though. Maybe if you have him, you hold on and reassess, but there are still better options like Amad Diallo, Rodgers, and all those I've covered recently. So that wraps things up. Obviously, I showed you the lineups and everything else you need to know for Game Week 21. We'll also get the Forest and Liverpool lineups fairly soon, but yeah, we can talk about that in a potential reaction stream or future videos. Kvaratskhelia is going to be another Soler transfer, earns money for 2 to 3 years, then moves on. I agree with you. I think that's going to be the likely scenario. He's a quality dribbler, great ball control and all of that stuff, but yeah, goals and assists wise, I know football's not all about GA. He can be very hit or miss. Yeah, good luck, Easy99. Continue the good form, and we'll see how it goes. Name your Team of the Year team. But Team of the Year or Team of the Season? I mean, you did say year there, right? I don't know if it's even worth it. Borussia Dortmund losing 3-0. Wow. To Holstein Kiel, if that's even how you pronounce it. Good luck as well, Jellyfish. Good to see you and everybody else. If you haven't already, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards new goals, like 32,000 subscribers. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Patreon and the championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League Drafthound, as well as Spotify can also be found there. The same goes for Blue Sky, which I've recently joined, and I'm also on Reddit. I do post there, mainly for UCL Fantasy. Jack says went with Isak captain. There's a big, how do I say this, a nice spread for the captaincy this week, which is good to see. I agree, Tustapaki is a shame that Kvaratskhelia went to PSG. It does open the door for Barcola to make a move. Promising young player, not the solution for Arsenal though. If Arsenal were to go from in January, they still need 2 or 3 attackers in my opinion. Nuri Sahin to be sacked, Ten Hag to Dortmund. That could be a great shout. Yeah, Sahin hasn't been doing a great job. Even when he first joined, I already saw some Dortmund fans kind of voice their apprehensions about him. What's scary about City is they are in the market for an attacker, 2 defenders and a midfielder. So far, they are close on 2 of their targets. If they get Zubimendi too, game on. Well, Zubimendi is going to join Arsenal, apparently. That's kind of, I mean, Sami Mokbel, I think it is. He's quite reliable. And it does seem like Arsenal are going to buy Zubimendi. But even without that, looking at this season, it would not surprise me if City finished second and Arsenal ended up finishing 3rd or 4th, maybe even lower, considering their recent form and, you know, the big issues they haven't addressed for quite some time now. Hoping Salah scores the biggest. From an FPL perspective, I do feel that way, but I honestly would not mind if it means Liverpool drop points if Salah blanks. And, you know, I'd like to think I played a part in that. Obviously, I didn't. Will you take Grealish at Arsenal? No. But somehow Trent, Wood and Sells also get points, says Twisted Parky. You're asking for a lot there, mate. I'm not going to lie. Well, Royal Gaming, it's obviously sad to see any player get injured, especially with an ACL injury. You know, we are missing 7, 8, 9 months at least. Hopefully he gets well soon, but I've said this before, he isn't the solution. He did very well when he first joined Arsenal. The likes of him and Zinchenko pushed him towards title contention. But Arsenal need 2 or 3 quality attackers minimum. And with these injuries, you could even say 4. I mean, it's ridiculous what Arsenal did in the summer. Very poor window. I thought it was bad when it first happened, but I thought the squad might be good enough to, you know, pull through. No, it just isn't. So yeah, the Jesus injury is terrible, but Arsenal should still be signing attackers anyway, even if he was fit. So yeah, you can't rely on him. He's injury prone, unfortunately, and it might be his last game in an Arsenal shirt, to be fair. But thank you everyone for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. Hopefully you get green arrows in Game Week 21 and enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon for more FPL and user fantasy content, which does return next week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I hope you have a great week in all aspects.